74-year-old Natalie Selb is suing her stepchildren, 46-year-old real estate appraiser Tina Stamper and 44-year-old business owner Douglas Selb for the cost of their father's funeral. Tina and Douglas say they never agreed to pay.
Order. All rise. Company?
Yes, I am now.
Okay. Yeah, this is case number 560 on the calendar in the matter of Selb versus Selb. Stamper. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Miss Selb,
Yes.
you were married to the defendant's father, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
For 7 years.
Almost 7 years. Yes, ma'am.
He died.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that the defendants agreed to reimburse you for the costs of cremating your husband.
Yes, ma'am.
They say that there was never such an agreement. When did your husband pass away?
I cannot hear you.
When did your husband pass away?
He passed away of October 6th last year.
Was his passing away sudden?
No, ma'am.
He had been ill for a period of time?
Only my son was there.
Okay, let's try it on this side. Was your father ill for a long time?
I would say yes.
What do you mean you would say yes?
He had open heart surgery in 1994 and among many other illnesses, and I don't think he ever recuperated, if that's
From
what
his
you...
open heart surgery?
Right.
Were you notified as soon as he passed away?
He passed away at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Natalie called me the next, early, about 8:30 the next morning.
Was he home or was he in the hospital?
He was in the hospital.
How long had he been in the hospital?
It was 2 days prior.
To his passing.
She called you 2 days before. Did you go to see him?
No.
She told us not to.
She told us not to bother coming up there.
She has no right to do that. And if she did, I would assume that you would just disregard that and go and see your father anyway.
She requested us that we did not come up there.
Then you disregard that request and you go see your father.
She said that he was not, there was no plans for actually that he was going to survive the evening.
Even more reason for you to get there. Did you see your father regularly?
A few times a year.
And you?
Natalie made it very difficult for us to see our father. She called me in 1998 and told me that I was never welcome in her home again. So my visits with my father had to be over the phone. I was not welcome in her home.
All right, Miss Selb, would you tell me the conversation that you allegedly had with these children about their reimbursing you for the cost of your husband's cremation?
On October 21st, they came over to pick up some of my husband's heirlooms. They also want to have the ashes. I told Tina that I have paid $1,200 for it, and she said she will reimburse the money. All I have to do is just send the bill.
I never said that.
I have sent the bill with a letter. I didn't hear anything from her.
Just a minute. At that time, did you give her the ashes?
Yes, they took the ashes when they left.
Was there any funeral service for your husband?
No, there was just at the park, you know, people have got together and had dinner and stuff like that. And I have asked them, but they didn't want to come.
But they came to the house to pick up some property, is that right?
Yes.
That's correct.
And you picked up your father's ashes.
Yes.
Tell me under what circumstances this lady gave you the ashes.
We went up to get my dad's war mementos and our family photo albums, all that was left of that my father had, and there was never a discussion about taking the ashes home. I mean, that wasn't why we went up there.
Okay.
She presented a carton as we were leaving of his ashes, and we were both very surprised by that. There was never a discussion about reimbursing for ashes or giving her money for the cremation, and then we can exchange, you know, pay this ransom for my father's ashes and we could leave with it. Never a discussion about that. The ashes were there. She presented it to us along with a copy of what appears to be his will, and we left. That was that.
Miss Selb, why did you give them your husband's ashes?
Why did I do what?
Why did you give them your husband's ashes?
Because Doug asked for it.
Because they asked for it?
Yes.
And you had no problem with that?
Well, I mean, I didn't want to divide it, ma'am. You know, so I said, okay, you go ahead and take it. Because Tina told me that she's going to reverse the money.
Well, when you decided to have him cremated, you didn't speak to her with regard to the costs. Is that right?
She told me also that whatever I do is okay with her, and she also talked to my son.
That's not true.
At the
That's
hospital.
absolutely not true.
At the where?
At the hospital when my husband was in the hospital, she called. My son was in the hospital when she called when my husband was sick.
Step up. Tell me. Not proper court attire.
Sorry.
So you should have something important to say. I assume you do.
Basically, I was there when he went into the hospital and when he died.
And when did you have a conversation with Tina?
I had conversations with them at least, each of them at least twice.
Go ahead. Let me hear about the conversation.
You know, they were asking what was going on with their father and, you know, what do the doctors think? And I said they don't really know. They pretty much think he's going to die or they're not going to do much about it. And then they told me that they weren't able to get up there. So we went in the next morning and made arrangements to have him cremated. They left it in the hands of my mother to take care of.
Were there any death benefits under Social Security?
I believe the $225 that they give for when somebody dies, Social Security, that was about it. And then,
$225 for burial costs?
yeah, that's what the Social Security system will pay.
Okay. Well, that's $225.
Correct.
Even that, your lawsuit is $1,200, which is the entire cost of cremation. Right?
Yes.
Is there a will?
Your Honor, my father had an estate when he married Natalie. And I have here a record of every single thing that my father had and things that show, as far as I'm concerned, that he had an estate that more than paid for funeral expenses.
Plus his wishes to be buried.
He wanted
whole.
to be buried whole next to my mother, who died in 1983. He already had a plot. He already had his wishes known. She knew them. She and I discussed this. When he died, she knew that we did not want him cremated and that he didn't want to be cremated.
How long was he married to your mother?
37 years.
When did she pass away?
1983. I hired Natalie to be his housekeeper.
I think an important point,
Go ahead.
I think an important point is that when my father was ill, we hired Natalie, my sister actually hired Natalie to take care of him. And in a 6-week period, they were married and she produced a license with his name on it. And
Her license.
with her name on it and my father's name. And at that point, a bank that had all his funds and monies called us up, my sister, which was the power of attorney at the time, and said there's something funny going on. This woman is here and she's liquidating
Closing all of his accounts.
Closing all of his accounts, getting all the funds out of his accounts. At that point, we contacted my father, and that's when he said, well, we just happened to get married.
Okay. Miss Selb, after you married Mr. Selb,
Yes.
were you working anyplace else?
Before I started working for him?
For the last 7 years, since you were married to their father, you didn't work at all outside the home?
That was a full-time job with Mr. Selb.
Fine. So you didn't work at all outside the home?
No, ma'am.
Is that right? How were you supported?
We lived on his retirement and my Social Security.
How much was your Social Security?
My Social Security, $472.
And how much was his pension?
His pension was $1,200 or something like that.
And how much was his Social Security?
5-something.
So you had Social Security of $400 and he had about $1,700 a month. Is that
Right,
right?
ma'am.
Okay. And he had savings as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Of course. Where are his savings?
The savings,
Yeah.
we spent most of it.
Do you have any left?
We have traveled quite a bit, ma'am.
Oh, just a minute. Do you have any left of his savings?
Yeah, I have $2,000.
Good. That pays for the funeral. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The only thing I can say that I took care of their father for 7 years.
My sister went there a couple of weeks afterwards, and she found the mail actually had been sorted through and gone through, his financial statements gone through.
They wouldn't even answer the letters I have sent it to them.
31-year-old sanitation engineer Benjamin Carbajal claims the mother of his 4-year-old daughter, 31-year-old package handler Denise Young, hit him in the mouth and damaged his truck.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Carbajal versus Young. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Two of you folks were involved in a relationship. You have a child together, and according to your complaint, sir, you had had some sort of a disagreement. You went over to the defendant's house to apologize. An argument ensued, and she damaged your truck.
Correct. I went over there. We had been arguing on Friday night, then we didn't see each other all day Saturday. And then I actually went over there to pick up my daughter at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, and she wasn't there. And then I, kept going back, every couple of hours, and I finally caught up with her about 3:30. And we argued on her porch. My little girl, she's 4 years old now, and she was, right there with her at the screen door. We kept arguing. I got a little upset. She got upset. I turned around and walked away.
That's incorrect as far as...
Get a chance.
Okay.
Go ahead.
She said one more thing. I turned around and lashed back at her, and then I took off down her walkway. She came out, storming out of her door, started swinging at me, and I was, just bobbing and weaving, kind of like went towards the front of my truck and went around towards, like, the driver's side of my truck. Well, because she couldn't hit me, I guess she got upset, so she went up to my truck, and she was in her bare feet, but she was kicking my truck about 4 to 5 times on the passenger side. Then she walked around. She walked around the front of my truck, and she tried to hit me again. All this time, I kept telling her my little daughter was watching through the screen door, so I was telling her to calm down. And she started swinging at me again, but this time I grabbed her arms, and she proceeded to headbutt me right in my mouth and loosen this tooth right here. So then after that happened, I backed up, and she followed me up the driveway, started swinging again. This time, the only way I can get away, I just grabbed her and I pushed her with a little force, and that's the only way that I was able to get away. I then got into my truck, and I drove off up her street a little bit, and then I got out, and we exchanged a few more words. And
What'd you get out for?
Because I said a few things to her. I wanted to get like one little last word in, and anyway, so I started driving. In my mind, I was like, well, I'm going to the police department, straight to the police department. And as I was driving...
You want to lose this case before we start?
No. Okay, apologize.
As I was driving to the police department, I went to make a left turn, and that's when I noticed that this had been broken off. I guess she had done it between the time she headbutted me and when I backed up to her driveway. I guess she reached in and broke it off because she was still trying to do damage to my truck.
Okay. So what I find interesting, sir, is that you are suing for damage to your truck.
Only.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody hit me and loosened my tooth, boy. I wouldn't give a rat's behind about my truck.
I also went to the dentist. I went to the dentist like 2 weeks later. There was little damage in the ligaments.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you, sir. It's just your priorities are sort of interesting to me. Okay. Miss Young.
Yes.
Why did you lose your temper at him that day?
Well, he'd said something about our daughter. He said that he probably isn't the father when I had broken up with him because he was too jealous.
The one thing that he said to you was, I'm probably not her father.
Well, he had used plenty of vulgarness and just intent to hurt me with just...
So you lost your cool?
Well, after he was leaving, yeah, he started flinging, he was mud flinging at me, I kept my cool up until that point, until he was down in the middle of the grass and he had screamed that back because he hadn't pushed my buttons yet. And he knew that that's the only thing he could say to push my buttons.
So then what did you do?
I'm a wet hen when it comes to my daughter. What did I do? I went down to the lawn and, yeah, I had swung at him with miss, which there's no intent to,
Just tell me what you did.
Only because I ducked out of the way, though. She was coming
Am
at me
I asking you any questions now?
Okay.
And
so you started swinging at him.
I had swung one time. Yes, I did. Either or.
You started swinging at him.
Okay. Well, yeah, heck yes. So, well, I didn't hit him. He ducked and grabbed my arms and held him up to me, pushed him up to me, laughing at me, seeing that he pushed my buttons. At that time, he slapped my head. He let go of one of my arms.
Wait, hold on.
No, I don't want to hear you.
I can't.
Did you understand me?
That's
I don't want to hear you.
Mm-hmm. And he'd swung at me and popped me in the side of the head, at this side of the head, And,
Go ahead.
Which is in
I'm
the...
going to sit here and tell a lie like that.
You want to lose? You want me to throw you out? I'm going to do that. You told your story. I told her to be quiet until you were finished. Do you understand? Did you hear me tell her that?
Mm-hmm.
If you open your mouth again, I'm dismissing your lawsuit unless I ask you a question. Is that clear?
That's clear.
Good. Continue.
Okay. At that time, when he hit me in the head, just out of defending myself, then I...
You weren't defending yourself. You were the aggressor.
Well, yes, I was the
No,
aggressor.
you were
but
the
he's
aggressor.
The one that
No,
touched me
you
first.
were the aggressor.
Correct, but he's the one that touched first.
No.
But-
You
okay.
were the aggressor.
Okay, so, okay.
Now, what did you do to his car?
He then let go and ran around his truck laughing and dancing around, thought it was cute. He ran from the back of his truck all the way around to the passenger seat side, and at that time I reached in to grab his keys.
No, at that time, according to your answer, let me tell you what you wrote in your answer. He ran around to get to the front of his truck.
Right.
And you say, I chased him
Well,
from the back to the front driver's side.
that's just human nature. I mean, somebody hits you, yeah, heck yes. I mean, you know, you're like, and he's laughing, and you're like...
Let me see the damage to the truck,
adrenaline's
please.
popping up. Shoot.
Let me
Okay,
see the damage.
what I have here, I have
I
like-
didn't ask you a question. I said, let me see the damage to the truck.
Okay. But in those pictures,
And may I finish?
No, you're finished.
Oh, I'm
want this
not
too?
finished.
You're finished. Do you ever hear sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt
I
me?
do understand
Well, you were
that.
the aggressor.
Well, he's the one that hit.
No. You were the aggressor. He hit in self-defense. You were the aggressor.
No. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, the neighbor saw all that, and I wished I would have...
Don't tell me what anybody else saw. Now let me see the estimates.
That's true.
the estimate, and do you want to see the police report also?
Yes.
You can tell a lie like that.
You're so...
You know damn well I did not hit you.
you ought to just be quiet.
They got into a
You know,
No, Judge, they're not talking.
screen door, you're so lame. Kabrina knows how to open
Now
screens.
they're talking to each other, Judge.
But you asked them to stop.
She's going to throw your case out if you don't shut up. Okay?
Thank you. You know what I find interesting? She headbutted him, right? And then the officer notes here that she had a bruise. Listen to this. On her forehead, approximately 2 inches round. Hello?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
One of the things that you said to her, that this was not your child, is a vile thing to say. Vile.
You betcha.
I don't need any help from you.
And later today,
This is a court. If he wants to sue her, he would be standing where you're standing. He didn't make an agreement with her. You made the agreement with him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Benjamin Carbajal is suing ex-girlfriend Denise Young for hitting him in front of their 4-year-old daughter.
Okay, well, you're going to get the money for your truck. She had absolutely no basis to not only hit you in the mouth, which I would have sued for, but damage your truck,
He thought
God
it was
forbid.
cool. That's what he told the officer, too. He thought it was cool.
But I'm going to
Sit
say this
back.
to you, sir, and this is just gratuitous tongue lashing from me. One of the things that you said to her, which, especially since you say that your daughter was present, she was at the screen door, if you shouted to her that this was not your child, that is a vile thing to say.
Sick.
Vile. Clearly designed to push her buttons. Pushing her buttons doesn't give her a license to either assault you or your property. But that probably, especially with your daughter there, is probably the worst thing that you could say to a child within a child's earshot. Right? So I don't
agree.
care what kind of relationship you have with her. If you two have been fighting for 12 years, God bless you, you might spend the next 12 years fighting with each other. Who knows? But you made a child together. You're not supposed to make that child miserable. So if you told me that you were being a good father and said, cut it out, you know, your daughter is standing by the screen door, and then to shout to her what you did, there is nothing that I can say to you that can mitigate the damage that that did. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
All right. Do you still go and pick her up for visitation?
Yes.
Yeah,
Actually,
once in a great while.
actually,
once in a great while.
Last Sunday,
Like-
see,
like the day-
it was raining heavy,
Yeah.
and because I have not had that fixed yet, I can't drive my truck in the rain because I don't have any windshield wipers.
It quit raining at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have
Do you have an
offered,
order of
and-
visitation?
Yes, I have,
Yes, he
and
does.
I took
Just a
her to
sec.
court.
Just a second. You have an order of
Yes,
visitation?
I do. Yes.
And I assume you have an order of support.
Yes, I do. Mhm.
And you pay the order of support?
Yes.
Yes, they dock his wages.
Okay, well, that's fine.
He has no choice.
That's fine.
Yes.
He's working. He could quit
You
his
betcha.
job.
Yes, you betcha.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
So that you both work and you both
Very
support
good
the
job,
child
yes.
that you made. And if you have visitation, every time you're supposed to be there on time. You
That
never
includes-
dis-
Excuse me.
I don't need any help from you.
No, okay. I'm sorry.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,650. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That was easy.
The time that's invested with he and Cabrina isn't anything.
I guess she's right for us to get along well, everything to be pretty smooth and pleasant, and me to spend more time with my daughter. She's right.
Well, that's important. That's important for every child.
Brooks Warner is the grandfather of 16-year-old Jade Warner. Jade claims that her former high school friend, 18-year-old Jessica Reno, keyed her grandfather's car after they had a falling out.
Come to order. Order in the court. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 215 on the calendar in the matter of Warner versus Reno. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You're welcome. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Warner, you really don't know anything about this case. You are merely the owner of the car that was damaged. Is that right?
Correct.
And it's your granddaughter who was driving the car or the truck.
Correct.
So why don't you have a seat, and I'd like to see Jade Warner, please. Step up. Miss Warner, according to what I've read, you and the defendant were friends for a while, and then you had sort of a falling out over a boy. It was your boyfriend or her boyfriend, and then it became your boyfriend. Whatever. It's nonsense. In any event, this thing culminated, according to you, when the defendant keyed your car. And you say that happened on the 19th of August.
Yes.
Where did it happen?
It happened at Holly Kellogg's house.
And what makes you think that the defendant, who denies that she did this, was involved in keying your car?
At 9:55 p.m. on August 19th, Holly called me because she needed a ride home from her work. I went up there to go pick her up, and as I was walking out with Holly, Jessica was standing by my car.
Okay, so you know Holly?
Yes.
Well, according to your answer, I read your answer. You said she was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay, I was leaving Coach's, and
Coach's is what?
Holly's work. And Jessica was in a truck, a white truck, with her other friend, and they followed me from Holly's work to Holly's house, which is about 5 miles. As we went into Holly's house, I parked my car. We went in there. I was getting a couple of things out of Holly's room. Holly was closing her blinds. As she was looking in her blinds, she saw Jessica circle.
Don't tell me what she saw. Where is
Okay.
Holly?
Holly is right there.
Step up, please. No, you can stay.
Okay.
Right next to her. All right, so the plaintiff picked you up from work,
Correct.
drove you home.
Correct.
You all went inside. According to the plaintiff, you observed something when you were closing the blinds when you got
Correct.
into your house. What did you observe?
As I was closing the blinds, I looked out my window and noticed there was a white truck and pulled up like closely to my driveway, and we have a security light outside that comes on and like a motion detector. And I looked out to see a like white truck with designs on the side. I noticed that it was the truck that Miss Reno had been riding in as they had followed me to my house from work.
How do you know that they had followed you home? Did you see the truck?
Yes. As I got into the car, I noticed that someone was following us closely, and I was looking behind to figure out who it was, and I noticed it was them, and I proceeded to ask Jade if they had had a problem or something, because I didn't understand why.
When you said you saw it was them, did you turn around to look in a rearview mirror?
I turned around and looked, and she had switched lanes, and so I saw that. I saw that it was completely those Jessica and her friend in the white truck.
Okay. Now, when you got to your house, did you see the truck?
They
Before
didn't-
you looked out the window,
Correct.
did you see the truck as you pulled up to
No.
your truck?
As I had made a right-hand turn to turn onto one of the streets that leads me to my house, they had gone straight. As I watched them like speed off, I saw Jessica with her hand out the window, flipping us off, yelling something, and I didn't understand at that point what was going on because as far as I knew, her and I had been friends.
Okay. Now you're inside the house, closing your blinds. Now you're going to tell me exactly what you saw.
Okay. As I look out my blinds, I see that there's the same white truck. There was a driver in the car, which was Jessica's friend. Jessica was walking around Jade's car, and her hand was down here. And I was trying to figure out what was going on, and as I looked and glanced a little bit longer, I could see that she was keying her car. And I didn't want to walk outside, so I stayed inside and yelled for my mom, and my mom came out, and then I saw the truck speed off.
Then you went outside after this?
Correct.
What did you observe when you went outside?
There was key marks on my car.
Do you have photographs?
Yeah.
I see them, please.
On the photographs, you can see the metal that has been, that it's clearly the 4 panels on each side of the car.
Certainly is. Okay, Ms. Reno, let's hear you.
Okay, I brought my friend Jessica.
Don't tell me you brought your friend. You look at me.
Okay, about 9:20, my friend had picked me up from my house. We went over to my friend Jason's house, and he wasn't there. His roommate had told us that he was going to Coach's to have dinner with his family and then going to Sharky's to play pool. So we went over to Coach's, and there we had seen Jade, and well, actually we saw her car after we came out. And I had wondered how she got in because she's not even 18. So I had asked someone that was in her car if she was coming to hang out or whatever, you know, and how she got in because she's not 18. And she said that they were here to pick up Holly. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to see Holly because me and Holly are friends. So she came after she had said that she came outside, and Holly said hi, and we gave each other a hug, and then we proceeded on about our night. They got in their car, they left, we got in the truck, we left. We followed them to about Avenue L. They turned right, and we turned left. We proceeded to go to Sharky's, which is a pool hall, to look for my friend, and he wasn't there, and so we just proceeded to go to Jessica's house, which we were there by 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Now, who were you with that night?
Jessica.
Jessica, what's her last name?
Pavovarov.
Is that you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Step up. Do you know Holly?
No, Your Honor, I don't. I met her just briefly at a party they had at their house.
Do you know Jade?
I met Jade before. She spent the night at our house when she was 14 years old.
How long ago was that?
Almost two and a half, Your Honor.
Were you driving a white truck that night?
Yes, I was.
Does the white truck have any markings on it?
It has a big dent in the side, and it has pinstriping on it.
Mm-hmm. You yourself have never had a falling out with Miss Warner,
No,
is that right?
No.
But you know that Miss Reno has had some problems with her.
Well, from what I knew, they were friends, and I don't know what happened between them. They just stopped hanging out.
Okay. Now, you heard Holly tell me that at some point when the cars separated after she was picked up from work, that Miss Reno gestured out her car window to their car and said something. Did you hear that?
No, Your Honor. What's funny is from where they live and where we live and all the way to Sharky's, it's totally the distance. We're going the opposite way. And we have a map right here that shows that it's the opposite way. And my mom was at home when we got there, and we got there, it was before even 10. So if this happened at, what, 9:55, when this supposedly happened, then there's no possible way because we were at home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The cops went to the house, and Jade had said that Jessica had keyed Jade's car. And then we got another call, and Jessica's car had been egged with 82 eggs.
That's more information than I asked for.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Jade Warner says former high school friend, 18-year-old Jessica Reno, keyed her grandfather's car.
Okay. What time that evening did you get picked up at work?
About 10:15. I hadn't clocked out till 10:12 that evening.
And how long does it take you to get home?
Takes me about 10 minutes.
So you were at home by 10:30?
Correct.
And it's your statement that you were in your house at 10:30?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to hear from your mother.
That's good.
Your last name?
Pavovarov.
Do you recall the evening of August 19th?
Yes, I do.
How do you recall that evening?
Because Jessie had come home from San Diego to visit her friend, and I had gone to bed early because I was very tired, and I have a little dog that sleeps with me, and just before 10 it started barking and woke me up, and I had seen my clock on the end table, and it's a digital, but I only could see the first number, and it was 9 something, because the first digit of the clock I could see, and I had my Bible and my book studies on my stand, and it was covering the last couple numbers. And I tried to quiet my dog down, and she wouldn't relax, so I finally got up, and the girls were in the kitchen talking and snacking. So I sat up until probably about 12 o'clock that night with them talking. So they were in, I would say, at least a couple minutes before 10.
Were you contacted by the police that night?
I wasn't, but I was there when Jessica Reno's mom, Pat, called the house and said the police had been at her house. I was sitting at the table with the girls when they called. And the police had asked, I believe, my address and stuff, but they never did come over.
Approximately what time did you receive that phone call?
12:30.
No.
I don't know. I don't even know what time it was. Probably 11:30, 12. I don't know.
And you stayed downstairs with them the entire evening?
Yeah, until I went to bed, and it was after 12, and I finally went to bed, and then they were still up talking.
Were you there when the phone call came in from Jessica's mother?
Yes, I was.
Did you speak to Jessica's mother?
I don't think I did.
Well, let me ask you this question. Clearly, when her mother called, she said something about the police wanting to speak to Jessica.
Well, my daughter answered the phone.
When the phone rang and it was Jessica's mom on the phone, what did she say to you?
She said, I need to speak with Jessica. And I said, okay. And then Jessica started talking to her mom, and she's like, what? What are you talking about? You know?
So there came a time, I assume, when Jessica got off the phone with her mom. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And did she tell you what had happened?
Yes.
What did she say during the course of the conversation with you about the conversation she had with her mother?
She said that the cops went to the house, and they said that Jade had called the cops and said that Jessica had keyed Jade's car. And then we got another call later saying Jessica's car had been egged with 82 eggs, and it's a coincidence that Jade's car got keyed and Jade thought it was Jessica, so all of a sudden Jessica's car got egged with 82 eggs and the house.
Just a second. I'm not finished.
Yes, ma'am.
That's more information than I asked for. Now, you got off the phone with Jessica's mom. The police were looking for her. Is that right? That's what your mother told you?
Yes.
And you knew that your daughter and Jessica had been out together that night?
That's right, Your Honor.
And then you went to bed?
Right.
You didn't call back Jessica's mother?
No.
You weren't concerned that if they were looking for Jessica about something that happened that night, perhaps your daughter was involved?
Because...
No, I'm just asking you. You weren't concerned that if the police were looking for your daughter... Let me finish. You weren't concerned that if the police were looking for Jessica because of an incident that happened that night, because I assume they got off the phone and told you what the police were looking for her for,
yes,
right?
Your Honor.
And I assume that you knew that the two girls were together.
That's right.
So it would seem logical to me as a parent that you would want to get this information about where these two girls were accused of being that night, at least from her mother, not from what she's reporting to you. But you went to bed.
Yes, because Mrs. Reno had talked to the police.
How do you know that?
Because she said the police had been at her house.
Right.
Had been at her
That's
house.
what I'm saying. But Jessica reported that to you,
right.
correct?
Right.
Jessica's reporting all of this to you about the conversation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So Jessica's reporting about the conversation to you. And you as a parent of a young girl, knowing that they're out together that night, don't pick up the phone to call the other mother? You
No.
went to sleep?
No, because she told Jessica the cops had been there. The incident happened after 10, and I knew the girls were at my house, so I knew they couldn't have done it
Well, then I would have picked up the phone and made a phone call to either the police or to her mother and said, that's impossible. How could they be looking for Jessica and Jessica when they were both here sitting in my kitchen having cookies and milk?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If somebody said to you, your daughter has just been accused of being involved in a crime, you wouldn't go to sleep and say, I hope somebody figures this out. I hope we have Sherlock Holmes on the case.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jade Warner says former friend Jessica Reno owes for keying her grandfather's car.
Okay. Now, one of my children were accused of being involved in a vandalism, and I knew that my children were sitting at the kitchen table with me, I would have called back Jessica's mother and said to her, give me the name of the police officer who just called you, because I have to call them immediately and tell them that the girls were sitting with me for the last hour and a half. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Have a seat. Let me see estimates for the damage to the car. We understanding each other?
Yes, we do very well. Thank you, Your Honor.
Right.
Your Honor.
Who wants to say something? Sure.
I'm Jessica's mom. The girls were at my house, left at 9:40. We have brought a map, or 9:20, I'm sorry, of the 3 places they went.
I don't believe that they went to the 3 places, madam. Your daughter does not deny the fact that she was at Coach's. The only discrepancy is where they went after Coach's. The only defense that they have is that they went directly to Jessica Two's house, where they were sitting in the kitchen having milk and cookies at the time of this incident. I don't need a map. I need the truth. And she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you are a concerned parent, now just figure out what I just said to her. If somebody called your house and said to you, your daughter has just been accused of vandalizing property or being involved in a crime, and you knew she was sitting at your kitchen table during that time, all night, would you not contact the police and tell them that immediately? Would you not do that?
I would do that.
Of course. You wouldn't go to sleep and say, I hope somebody figures this out. I hope we have Sherlock Holmes on the case. You would pick up the phone and you would call immediately. This lady, who's a very nice lady, has a daughter who's driving a car, a truck, who at least could be considered, if this were true, an accomplice.
But her daughter was not accused of this crime. It was just
I'm telling you, if you are driving the car in which somebody is using as a vehicle to get away from performing a crime, they call that in movie land the getaway car. Then you pick up the phone and you say, the girls couldn't have been involved with that because they were with me. Right? Of course.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'll tell you one of the things that I found most interesting, Miss Reno. There is a witness. There is an eyewitness. And the eyewitness is somebody who, according to you, was a friend of yours. Because I'm going to read from your answer. Holly is a girl who I've been friends with for years. Holly said hi and gave me a hug. This was at Coach's that night. So you have to say to yourself, why in the world would somebody make up a story about having seen a friend commit a crime unless it were true? When somebody is a crime victim, they don't want just somebody to be punished. They want the right person to be punished. They don't want the wrong person to be punished. That doesn't make them feel good. So I can understand it. If you 2 girls had had a falling out and you accused her, maybe you were making it up, maybe it wasn't her, maybe you thought it might be her. But when Holly says she saw you, and then your mother doesn't give me a very maternal answer as to what she did after she found out that the police were looking for the girls by going to sleep, I find that I am convinced by the required quantum of proof in this civil proceeding, which is proof by clear and convincing evidence, that you, in fact, are responsible. And the damage is $1,648.22. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
We haven't gotten along for over a year, and she's just looking for someone to blame, and her friends backing her up on a lie.
We think that they were going to try and change their story like how they did, and Judge Judy caught them in it.
Supposedly Jade went home and no one let her out of the house that night. Well, geez, you know what? Her mom paged her after her car got keyed at 3:30 in the morning, and oops, look at 84 eggs on Jessica's car.
And house.
And house.
My mom, as soon as the police left my house, she told me I wasn't going anywhere. And I know she went home and her grandparents didn't let her go anywhere, so.
You know, I'm in the United States Navy. I'm almost 20 years old, and I don't need to come home and tell Mommy, you know, where I went and what happened because the cops called our house.
45-year-old tour manager Mark Gilbert is suing his former landlord, 80-year-old Lillian von Lossberg, for destroying his property after she evicted him.
Order. All rise.
That's case number 412 on the calendar in the matter of Gilbert versus von Lossberg. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Gilbert, you were a tenant of the defendants for approximately a year and a half. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Did you have a lease?
I believe it was a month-to-month lease, yes, Your Honor.
You did not have a long-term lease. You were there month to month.
That's correct.
Your claim is that the defendant evicted you.
That's correct.
And in addition to evicting you, she destroyed some of your property, and she kept some of your security deposit. You also want her to pay for storage of your stuff, moving costs. So let's start with this. You did not have a lease.
That's correct.
You claim she evicted you.
Yes, ma'am.
She says that you voluntarily left. Let's get to that.
Item A that I have in evidence is a 30-day notice to quit that was taped to my door the day August 2nd, which is the day that most of this occurred.
You want to tell me briefly what happened that day?
I enjoy very much working in my yard. On this morning, I had finished the night before just coming home after 3 months of work. I'm home for only 7 or 8 days, and I'm gone another 3 months. Did the gardening, and a stranger walked into the front yard. I picked up my hose that was watering some plants, and I asked him what he was doing. I went outside. I was inside when I asked him this. I went outside and asked him what he was doing, and was told to my face that he was my new gardener and that he was Mrs. Vaughn's nephew. And I explained that I'd done most of the yard work and that all he really needed to do today was cut the yard. He turned around and ran next door, immediately followed by Mrs. Vaughn and a good number of her other family members. And I explained that these plants were mine and I could do with as I wish. She immediately turned around and took one of the plants and stripped it right down to its bare stalks. That picture I have here, this is a former palm tree that Mrs. Vaughn at the time took and stripped of its branches. At that point, I was so angry, Your Honor, the only thing that I could think to do was to go inside the house and call the police, and that's what I did.
Was that the first time you had disputes with the defendant?
No, actually, Your Honor, I ordered Media One to install the cable service and a phone service and combine them with a DSL line into my house here. And immediately the next day, Mrs. Vaughn informed me that she did not like Media One as a company and did not approve of them coming to install this on her house without my obtaining her permission.
Mr. Gilbert, let me stop you for a moment, please, sir. You know what it is to be a month-to-month tenant. Month-to-month tenant means that she can give you this 30-day notice to leave, and she doesn't have to give you any reason.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So you are not entitled to moving costs, storage costs of your stuff, any other damages. You're not entitled to that. Is her house immediately next door to yours?
It was, yes.
Well, where you used to live. It
Yes.
still is. It didn't
Yes.
float away in the
Yes.
rain. It's still there. All right. She doesn't want somebody living next to her who calls the police on her because she destroys a tree. Right? Once, by the way, you put this tree in the ground, this tree does not become yours.
If I pay rent on a property that I maintain until I leave that property, is the property not mine, Your Honor?
No, the property is not yours, sir. The property always is hers. And while it's not nice to do this to a tree, I could understand why this lady didn't want you living next door after the police were called even once, even though you may have felt that you had cause because she stripped the branches of this tree. So she's entitled to evict you. So you're not entitled to those damages. However, you also have a claim, sir, for withholding your security deposit. How much security deposit did she withhold?
She withheld $779.80, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Ms. Vaughn? You admit that you withheld some security deposit. Is that right?
I have a hearing problem.
Well, I can't shout any louder.
I'm sorry.
I
heard you say something about a...
Did you withhold security deposit?
He had an $1,100 security deposit. When he moved out, I spent a portion of that to clean the apartment because when he left another person in that house that was sleeping in the living room. When I entered the place after he left, the sink was littered with beer cans, whiskey bottles, and whatever.
Show
and
me
I
pictures.
spent money for cleaning that.
Show me pictures.
I didn't take a picture. I'm
sorry. You got a problem.
But I refunded him $300 and some out of the security deposit.
You have to show me, Miss Vaughn. Do you hear me carefully? You have to show me exactly what you spent.
I think I do have the receipts here, Your Honor.
Let me see. You can show it.
He'll have to assist me.
Your Honor, I can maybe save you some time. I have a copy of both the receipt and the deposit refund form she sent me.
I have to excuse you, but you're 80 years old.
Your Honor, I claim that receipt to be a company that doesn't exist.
Oh, right there.
That the handwriting on it matches the form.
Just a second, just a second, just a second.
Okay.
Plus the damages on the outside of the house.
What's the name of the company that repaired the doorbell, painted and cleaned, and put in new locks?
I don't know what the name of the company is.
Now, what's the name of the company?
It doesn't have a heading on it. Don't have it on there. Otherwise,
Miss Vaughn.
Yes.
Either I don't believe that you did all this stuff, or I believe that somebody else did it for you, like a family member. You are not entitled to put in new locks. You're entitled to clean if you show me that the place was filthy. That was $70. You have two different bills here for painting, one for $350 and one for $380. But nowhere does it tell me who did the painting.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand that.
There's no proof.
That's right.
And you have no pictures to show me of what this place looked like.
No, I didn't think of...
Who are you?
I'm her witness, her daughter.
Come on. Do you live with your mother?
No. I live on one side of my mother, and he lived on the other side of my mother. And my daughter lived 2 doors down.
I don't care where everybody lived. Did you go into the house on the day he left?
Yes.
Did you take pictures of the house on the day he left?
My daughter did. I didn't.
Fine. Where are the pictures?
She has since moved to Pomona, and
that's not my problem. You don't have the pictures.
Before he moved, she told me that
I don't care what. Listen to me. Listen to me.
All right. I was
You
told,
can't tell me what anybody else told you. You can tell me. Pay careful attention. Listen. I want you to start receiving. Did you see anything else? Look at me. Did you see?
Yes.
What else did you see?
He had put up some shelves in the utility porch in the back.
Yes.
That weren't there before he rented.
Yes.
And instead of washing the walls or to make things right, he either spot painted or spot cleaned, because when you look down the angle of the wall, you could see splotches where he had either spot painted or spot cleaned.
Sounds to me as if he was a very good tenant.
And
listen to me. You want to bring paid bills from somebody that's reputable, that puts their name on a receipt. You can do that. This is nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Can I say something?
Sure.
When I was served with a subpoena to appear in court, I did not, he said he was suing me for $3,000 with absolutely no reason of what his intentions were of collecting this money. I could have gotten the company, the man that did the work, to come in today had I known how to defend myself. But I had absolutely no idea of what this man is suing me for.
Okay. He was suing you for $3,000. Initially, he's not going to get $3,000, and I told him that. But he is going to get his security deposit back.
No, he got it all back.
No, he didn't, and he's going to get it back because there is no basis for you to withhold the vast majority of his security deposit.
Can I show these to the court as part of the damages?
Let me see. I asked you if you had pictures. You said no. What are you showing me?
That's what you ordered Media One without my permission, and he drilled holes in the floor, the side of the wall, and the building as it stands today needs to be painted and repaired.
Oh, goodness gracious me, madam. Looks to me as if he maintained your house in
And I have the name.
Quiet and listen. It looks to me as if he maintained your home in pristine condition. Anybody that maintains the outside of this house the way he did not maintain the inside like a pig pen. What?
Your Honor, he was running a business outside of a residential home, and that's why I called Media One, and I asked him why he had run all the wires into the house, drilled through the floor, drilled through the walls, as the pictures will indicate.
Show me where you paid to have the holes refilled.
They haven't.
No,
Good.
I'm going to have a lawsuit. I intend to sue him for that. This will follow up.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $779, which is the amount of the security that was withheld from you, sir. She had no right to withhold your money. You are getting your security deposit back. Goodbye.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
As long as he had his way, he was a good tenant. But don't cross him, because then immediately he thought that I was his enemy.
Never live next door to your landlady, ever.
And now the next case.
All parties on McQueen versus Arsenault. Step forward, please.
44-year-old flight attendant Ashley McQueen is suing 34-year-old advertising executive Jennifer Arsenault for the cost of 2 airline tickets. Jennifer says Ashley's lawsuit is bogus.
All right, this case is a little convoluted, but let me see if I can piece together what I do understand. Miss McQueen, you met the defendant when you went for an interview about taking some photographs of you and a photo shoot. You got into a discussion with the defendant. According to you, after some discussion of her personal life, you agreed, since you work for the airlines and get some of these companion tickets, to give her these companion tickets. It is your claim that there was cost involved, direct cost to you, and you want her to be responsible for the direct cost, what you actually paid for those tickets. The defendant says that, as far as she's concerned, those vouchers were a gift to her. Okay, what were you doing at this interview?
Okay, I met with the defendant. We had the interview at this agency. During our interview, the defendant did get into her personal life. She cried. I told her at the time, when she asked if I had access to discounted tickets, I would let her know. So a couple days had passed. I then called and left a message. She had already gone to New York to pick up her son. She got the message, called me from New York, and said, yes, I could use the companion tickets to get my son and I back to Denver, and maybe we can do your composite, which is like a business card with your photos. So I FedExed the tickets to her. She returned to Denver using the tickets. I called. She said they would not credit my visa, the $350 that I had charged the day that I met with her, because I did charge for the photo shoot.
You did have a photo session.
I never had the photo session. I paid for a photo session.
But you never had it?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So when the defendant said, well, we cannot credit your visa, then I called back, spoke to her boss, and her boss said he was
Tell me what her boss said.
Okay.
Were you ultimately credited for this $350?
Yes, I was.
All right. So that's out. Let's get back to the tickets.
Okay. She, was fired. She called and said, I've been fired from my job. I will pay you for the tickets.
How much did it actually cost you? I assume you have the bill there.
I do, and I have, for the tickets themselves, were $141.60.
For all of them?
For all, yes, all.
It's a bargain.
4.
Okay. You want to explain to me why you're suing for $734.44?
I am suing her for the lowest fare that it would have cost her to actually buy a ticket, just from the aggravation of 8 months trying to find her.
You don't get that.
Okay.
That's an interesting theory. But I reject it. Your out-of-pocket expenses are $141.60.
Well, not completely out of pocket, because I had to FedEx the tickets to her.
How much did that cost?
That was $6.24.
Okay, what else?
Certified mail, $3.20.
Okay. 147.84. Go.
Okay, hello, Your Honor. First of all, when Ms. McQueen came into the office, I did interview her, and actually we had a nice chat. We got along good.
I'm not interested.
Okay, I don't blame you. I understand.
Could you put that
I didn't
down?
ask her for the tickets, and she had called the secretary and told her that she did have tickets available for me. My office did, in fact, reimburse her the complete $350 for the photo shoot. Which,
She didn't take a photo shoot.
Right, but we reimbursed her for that amount, which we don't normally reimburse.
Who
anyone.
cares?
Okay. The misunderstanding was between composite cards and a photo shoot. I said I would pay for her composite cards, which are $250.
She didn't have a photo shoot. She didn't have composite cards.
But this
they
is
gave her
prior.
back,
This is the
they gave her
agreement.
back her money.
We gave her back her
Before.
money. And I don't argue.
No, it didn't come out of your pocket. The company gave back the money.
Well, actually, the composite cards were going to come out of my pocket.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay. They gave her back her money because there was no photo shoot, which would be
offered
used
her-
for the cards.
Right,
But
okay,
the $350
exactly. That's irrelevant.
I'm speaking. But the $350 you didn't pay, the company reimbursed her, decided that they didn't want any aggravation, they didn't want any grief. Here's your $350 back. You didn't take pictures. We didn't expend any time. Let's get to the airline tickets.
And I'm not in disagreement with that, with the $141.60. It was the $787 that I didn't feel I owed her, especially because of the fact that she harassed me, called my office several times. The entire situation was
Well, did you ever say to
her? It was
her?
a misunderstanding. is
Did
what
you
it
ever
was.
say to her, I'm prepared to give you the $141.60?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
When did you say that to her?
Oh, gosh, shortly after, probably a couple months after.
Well, what'd you wait so long for?
I didn't even have a way to get a hold of her for a long time. I was back in New York for a while.
All right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $147.84, which covers your overnighting the tickets. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I really didn't think that I would get the $720 for what it would have cost her.
It was a misunderstanding.
But I thought, well, what the heck? I might as well try.
I thought that they were a gift, a favor.
You know, you never know.
I just didn't feel that I owed her $787.
I've been looking for this fugitive for 8 months.
She had called my office several times.
So now I can finally put my detective hat in the closet.
54-year-old pharmaceutical salesperson Barbara Loving is suing her ex-boyfriend, 46-year-old software support technician Michael Allen, for the payoff on a car.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 490 on the calendar in the matter of Loving versus Allen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Don't you watch my courtroom often?
Always.
If you watched it always, you would learn you never co-sign a loan for a car
One
for
of
anybody.
2 major bad decisions I totally admit to.
Okay. Miss Loving, according to your complaint, you and Mr. Allen were dating for a while, and he was looking around for a new car, and you agreed to co-sign a loan for him because he couldn't get the car on his own. So far, is that correct?
Actually, Your Honor, we were living together at the time.
Second mistake.
She said there were 2 mistakes. Mr. Allen, is it correct that you needed a car and she agreed to co-sign for a loan on a car for you?
Yes.
And the relationship didn't work out, you broke up. According to you, Mr. Allen said he was not going to pay for the car anymore. Is that right?
Correct. He basically dumped it on me.
Okay. What I didn't quite get from the papers is who has the car?
The car has been sold.
Under what circumstances was the car sold? Was it repossessed?
No, thank goodness, because I decided to preserve my credit rating. Mike doesn't care much about his, but I sold it so that I could pay off the balance of the car, and in the process suffered a loss of $5,070.
All right. When did you purchase this car, sir?
In February of last year.
And were you still living together in February?
Yes, we were.
Until when did you live together?
So late August, early September of last year.
September 12th.
You can always rely on the gal to remember the date. 9/12. Emblazoned in your memory.
I will never forget that day.
Okay. And when you left, sir, did you take the car?
No, I did not.
You left it there?
I did. In fact, she requested on the 11th that I leave the car there. She was going to take it to the dealer, and basically, as far as she was aware, I was going to be without a vehicle.
I don't care about whether you say she knew you were going to be without a vehicle and she was being cruel and mean. You left the car there on September 12th.
That's
when you
correct.
left. Did you ever drive the car again?
I did not.
Is that correct?
Your Honor, he in no way was going to assume responsibility for this car. He is a total deadbeat, among other things,
If you
besides
wanna
his car.
insult
No, just a second. Don't speak to her.
And I'll tell you that I was more than generous when this breakup occurred because I offered him several options with this car and he denied all of them. Number one option, when we broke up in September, I felt compassionate toward him because his place was rented at the time until the following June. I told Mike he could stay in my home rent-free until the following June so that he would have...
And that was a real comfortable situation.
Just 1 second.
So that he would have the time to save up a little bit of extra money. I also told him when he left I would supply him with a sofa and a bed and numerous other things. I also let him drive this car around while he was looking for another car to purchase because he in no way was going to assume responsibility for this car.
Well, how did you know that? Now, that's
he
an
told
issue.
me. He
Well,
said, I am no longer going to pay.
When did he tell you that he was no longer going to pay for the car?
September 2nd. September 1st, we had a discussion of why the relationship wasn't working out. I told him, I said, Mike, I've seen a lot of things since you moved in January. Number one, you
Don't tell me what they were.
But anyhow, I told him all the reasons why, and I thought we could work it out. The next day he came to me and said that he was no longer going to pay for this car. I said, well, what does that mean? And he says, I'm not going to make any more payments. I can't afford it. The following day,
Just 1 second. Okay. Does that sound familiar, sir?
Almost.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, the following day, my son visited, and he and Mike and I had a conversation, and my son asked Mike to step to the plate and be a man, which I guess he's incapable of.
Don't editorialize.
Okay. But he asked him to step to the plate and assume responsibility for this vehicle. The only reason why I co-signed was because Mike had a terrible credit rating and I was going to save him money on his finance charge. And that was the reason I co-signed for him. I'm a generous person by nature and I learned my lesson.
That's editorializing.
Okay.
All right, you did it.
My son tried to shame Mike into taking responsibility. Mike's only defense at that time was to say, I know this is my responsibility, but I can't afford it. And that was his defense. I can't afford it.
That's not quite accurate, Your Honor.
Well, let me hear, sir. I see what you wrote in your answer. So let's see what your testimony is.
Okay. In actuality, to look at this, and she mentioned the verbal agreement, you have to, Your Honor, look at that agreement in its totality and apply all of the terms and not just some of the terms of the agreement.
Well, tell me.
That agreement did include, because of the fact when I moved in with her, we both had mortgages. So, there was money going out. We decided it was going to rent my place so that, things could be easily afforded, we could have expenses covered and so on. At the time that she suggested that I look at getting a better car than what I was looking at and made this offer, I told her very clearly, as soon as the offer was made, that there was only one way that I could afford the payments like this, and that is assuming that the relationship continues and the financial agreements that we have for the duration of that loan. And I laughingly at the time said, that means that you're kind of stuck with me for a long time. Her response to that, Your Honor, was that I know that and I have no problem with that. And we went forward from there. That response was the key to this agreement ever taking place.
Okay, now I have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Allen. If I understand you correctly, what you're saying is you were lulled into buying a more expensive car with a more expensive monthly payment. And the condition of that was that you would be a couple together because the only way that you could afford this more expensive car is if you were living in the kind of relationship you were living in now and sharing expenses. Is that right?
That's correct.
But then, according to Miss Loving offered you a proposition. And the proposition was that she would pay off the car, put it on her credit card, and you would have a minimal monthly payment to make to her, not to the finance company, because that would ruin her credit in case there was a problem, until the car was paid off. Did you, in fact, make that offer?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what was Mr. Allen's response?
He said absolutely not.
Okay. Now, that's what I have a problem with, Mr. Allen.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Barbara Loving says ex-boyfriend Michael Allen owes for the payoff on a car. Michael says she breached the contract by breaking up with him.
Tell me, did she offer to put the entire car note on her credit card?
No, she did not.
You just told me that you
No,
did.
there was a misunderstanding. I wanted to sell the car. The loss on the car was $5,000. I was going to put the $5,000 on a credit card and have him be responsible for paying.
Oh, that I can understand them not wanting to do.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that I can understand. I thought if you
but-
put the whole thing on your credit card, then if he was paying $200 a month, driving the car.
Your Honor, Mike.
Had that been the case, Your Honor, no problem.
So let me ask you this question, sir. Why didn't you suggest that?
That was not an option that
Why
was
didn't
put
you?
out because
She may not have said it. Why didn't you say it to her? Say, look, I don't have the cash right now. I can't afford a $400 a month note. If you want to put it on your credit card, I will sign a contract with you right now that I will be responsible to pay you $200 a month until this entire loan is paid off.
The reason that wasn't examined, Your Honor, was because of her reaction when I first approached her with the idea that given the breakup that she was initiating, I was not going to be able to, as we originally discussed, I was not going to be able to continue to afford the car. Her response to that was pretty much restricting any other options.
All right.
Basically,
Mr. Allen,
she was telling me,
all right,
get a second job.
All right, Mr. Allen, let's talk about being realistic and fair. What's supposed to happen in a courtroom is supposed to be a fair and just result. You drove this car for approximately 7 months. It was your vehicle, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
You paid the car note on the car, I assume, for that entire 7-month period. Is that right?
That is correct, as well as the down payment and the trade that I lost. And
just a second. Did you put any money towards the down payment?
No, I didn't, but there was $7,000 in the cost of the car, which was the cost to pay off his old car. He made 5 payments. I made 3 payments before I sold the car. He did not make all of the payments.
I made
had
all
to
of
make
the
3
payments
while I
through
was selling
August,
it.
Your Honor.
And he's lying to you.
Well, just a second. If you
relationship
made all the payments through August, you didn't make September's payment.
That's correct.
And I don't know when the car was finally brought back to the dealership, but you certainly didn't make those payments. And she did.
That's correct.
Okay. What kind of car was this that you bought?
It was a Toyota RAV4.
And how much was the total purchase price?
I believe it was $23,000. I have the...
I have all the paperwork and the signatures if you want them, Your Honor.
Can I see them, please? And I also want to see the payout from the bank.
Okay.
Mr. Allen, what kind of work do you do, sir?
I am a software support technician.
This.
Did you move back to your home?
I did not. It's still rented. They have a lease until June.
He moved in with an old girlfriend.
Okay.
Excuse me?
I know.
He's got to move someplace.
She doesn't know you're on.
What difference does it make? But I'm not.
What difference does it make where he moved? You didn't want him with you.
You know, Your Honor.
You didn't want him with you.
That's right.
Who cares
Thank
where he
God.
moved? All right.
Your Honor, Mike lied to you, though. There was never, I mean, Mike goes through cars faster than a Vegas slot machine goes through dollars. I offered to help him with this car only to save him interest money. There was never, ever an agreement on my part, maybe in his mind, that we would stay together forever. But what fool guarantees they're going to stay in love forever? I certainly would never say that, ever.
Mr. Allen, have you been married before?
I have.
How many times?
Once.
Have you been married?
Yes.
How many times?
Twice.
So between the two of you, you had 3 failed marriages.
Yes. Your Honor, at the time the offer was made, I was initially very hesitant.
Mr. Allen, if you hesitated about obligating yourself to buy this car, you should have thought twice and not bought it.
That was the reason, Your Honor, why I stipulated that the only way I could do
Mr.
it
Allen,
is with
you're
the
not,
relationship
let me tell you
going.
something. If you were 18 years old standing where you are and she was a 35-year-old woman, I could understand that. You are a grown man. You are a homeowner. You are an intelligent man. So if what you're telling me is she coerced you into obligating yourself into buying a more expensive car, that's a pretty babyish thing to say.
She did not coerce me, Your Honor.
Well, that's what you're saying to me. You're saying
I'm saying that she made a verbal agreement with me.
No, she did
not.
No, she didn't. That's what you construe it as. She didn't make a verbal agreement with you to stay with you forever, and that's why you bought the Toyota RAV4. Give me a break. You still working, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you file tax returns yet this year?
Yes, I have.
And how much did you earn last year on your tax returns?
It was $35,000.
Okay. And you support no one but yourself?
That's correct.
What were your monthly car payments?
Right now?
No, what were they?
Prior to the Toyota?
For the Toyota RAV4, what were they?
$435.
And how much do you receive as rent in the house that's currently rented?
$600.
$650.
$650, excuse me.
Women know everything. $650. And what's the mortgage payment?
It's $812.
So you're losing money on the rental.
That's correct.
How come?
That's part, Your Honor, of the agreements that we had.
Do you know the people that you rented to?
I do.
Okay. Who are they?
They are people that work at the same place that I do.
Okay. You planning on moving back into your house?
Probably after the end of the lease.
Okay. And where are you living now, sir?
I am living in a rented house.
Are you the lessee on the house?
I am.
How much rent do you pay?
I am paying...
Now look at me. Careful, because I check. I want to tell you, Mr. Allen, be careful, because I check. How much rent do you pay?
I am paying $350 a month.
How many other people live in the house?
2.
What's the total rent on the house?
Actually, I'll back up, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
The house is paid for, is a mortgage. I pay $350 to the person that owns the house.
So you pay $350 a month, maybe.
Plus the bundle.
Now you purchased another car, I assume.
Yes.
What kind of car did you purchase?
I have a Chevy Beretta, 89.
And how much did you pay for that, sir?
I believe was like $2,800. I'm doing that in payments.
And what are the amount of your payments?
$145.
So you pay approximately, according to you, $300 less for this car that you're driving than for the RAV4.
That's correct.
Were you sharing expenses in the house with Miss Loving?
Yes.
And how much were you giving her each month?
What we agreed on was $250.
No.
She says no.
Your Honor, January through June, he paid 0 while he was renting his place. He paid me 2, possibly 3 payments of $225. And to be honest with you, my grocery bills went up at least that much.
You're telling me that you gave her $250 a month towards the running of her home.
That's correct.
What did you do with all your money?
I do have other bills, Your Honor.
Like what?
I have from a vacation that I paid for completely in Colorado for a week.
Yes.
For us.
Yes.
That's on a credit card.
Okay.
There are about $1,300 that went on a credit card on when I was paying for all of the shipboard expenses on a cruise that we took.
Talk to me about vacations. I hear a lot about vacations.
I'd like to respond to that, too.
I want to know what you're doing with all your money, sir. You take care of yourself. If you tell me that you earn $35,000 a year in computers, you ain't doing something right because everybody's earning a lot more in computers. Let's say you earn $35,000 a year after taxes. What are you doing with all your money?
That's before taxes, Your Honor.
Yeah. Is that what you reported to the government?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever do any freelance work?
I do not.
Never did any of that freelance work while you were with Miss Loving?
I did not.
Why not?
I do software support for very specific software. I don't have any kind of a degree in computer technology.
Neither does Bill Gates.
May I?
Go ahead.
The reason why he gets a low value on his rent is because it's a trailer, and that's about the maximum you could expect for renting a trailer. The day he was moving out, this man, who doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together, wanted to buy one of my digital cameras from me for $500. I couldn't believe it. It just told me how irresponsible he is.
Mr. Allen, the operative word here, sir, is responsibility. You're a grown man. Clearly, between the two of you, you know the pitfalls of marriage, and you know that sometimes relationships last and sometimes they don't. You wanted the best possible car that you could get. This lady, guaranteed, did not twist your arm, nor did she enter into what I would consider anywhere near a binding verbal agreement to stay together with you, at least until your car was paid off. I mean, that's what you're expecting me to believe, that she entered into a binding agreement to remain with you and you with her until the car was paid off, and if she did not do that, ergo, you are not responsible for the car. Now, she's out a substantial amount of money. She is suing you for $2,500. The amount that she's out far exceeds that. That was the maximum allowed in the jurisdiction from whence you came. Correct. So I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, in the amount of $2,500. That's all. Yes.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I would have never believed that Mike would stoop so low to dump this vehicle on me.
Having to create a spectacle like this kind of reflects a lot of the issues that she has.
I spent thousands of dollars on him.
We had shared expenses, which I did pay for.
I'm glad to see that justice was done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Finnegan versus Cooper. Step forward, please.
19-year-old warehouse worker Justin Finnegan is suing 28-year-old student Catherine Cooper for backing into his car. Catherine says Justin was illegally parked.
Mr. Finnegan, it is your claim that Miss Cooper damaged your car by backing into it.
Yes, that is correct.
And you want her to pay for the damage that was done to your car. Miss Cooper says that your car is, or was, I don't know if it's still in existence, an illegally parked piece of junk. Okay, where did this happen, Mr. Finnegan? No, listen to me. I didn't ask you to show me. It's not show and tell. Where did it happen?
We were at the apartment complex.
At an apartment complex?
Yes.
Whose apartment complex?
Her old apartment complex and my witness Matt's apartment complex.
You don't live there?
No, I do not.
What were you doing there?
I was visiting with my friend Matthew.
When?
September 20th.
2004.
Yes, that is correct.
Now you can go over to your chart and show me where your car was.
Okay.
You say your car was parked.
Yes. No, it was still running. I had forgot my wallet, and I was parked right here.
Well, that says driveway. It's written there, driveway. So you left your car running in the driveway. Where had your car been parked, Mr. Finnegan?
My car was parked right here.
That says friend's car.
When we had left, no one was there. That was where I was parked.
Okay, so that space, you were occupying that space, and then you backed out into the driveway, left your car running, and went back inside to get a wallet?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, now my question to you is, why didn't you pull back into the parking space?
Because we were just running in real quick.
Not we. Don't say we. You were driving?
Yeah.
It's your car, not we were running in. Who ran in? How many people did it take to get a wallet?
I ran in real quick to grab the wallet.
So you were driving. So my question to you is, why didn't you pull back into the parking space?
I wasn't going to take that long. I was just running and grab the wallet and turn around.
It was long enough for somebody to hit your car.
She was backing out.
It was long enough for somebody to hit your car. Then what happened, Mr. Finnegan?
I had grabbed the wallet, turned around, came out the front door, and we started yelling because she was coming close to the car. And
who's we?
Me and my witness Matt, and I had another friend outside, and we were all yelling, "Watch out, watch out."
Just a second. Where was this witness?
We were, he
not we.
Matt was standing right here, right outside of the
He was
car
standing on the
grass.
What was he doing there?
He had got out to talk to someone.
And she hit your car?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, show me.
Okay.
What's this house? Picture of a house.
That one is a picture of the pole.
What does a pole have to do with this?
I was just showing that she has broke that pole several times with her vehicle.
I want to see a picture of your whole car, sir.
The whole car? We don't have one of the full car.
Why not?
Because I just took a picture of
What's
only
this
the
plural?
jet.
What's a we?
Sorry.
I want to see a picture of the whole car. She says that this is a gray car that you've painted with house paint. Looks like that to me, or this little thing over here, because that has to go to your damages, sir. Is this car painted with house paint?
No, it's primer. It was red.
Primer. Who painted it with primer?
It was primered when I had bought it. I was getting ready for paint.
How long have you had it?
I had it for a year.
Did you ever have it painted?
I haven't had it yet. It's sitting in the shop right now.
Why?
Because I was rebuilding the car.
All right, Miss Cooper, I'll hear you.
Okay.
That's part of the 20th of September, 2004. You backed into his car.
Yes, I did. And right after that happened, I got all his friends. There was more than that many people out, and they surrounded me, and they were yelling at me and calling me all kinds of horrible names. And I told them, fine, I'll just pay you. I was on my way to work. So I left after that. I needed to get out of there. There was a bunch of teenagers, and they were all partying. There's a lot of traffic in and out of the place all the time. And they all started harassing me, and the harassment never ended.
Okay, so you backed into his car.
Yeah.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see it. There was a car parked next to me. I was parked in my normal parking spot, and
I see where you say your car was parked.
Okay.
Now, what happened then, Mr. Finnegan? She didn't pay you for it, is that right?
Yes. She had asked me to bring her an estimate, and she would make payments for it.
Fine. Did you bring her an estimate?
Yes, I did.
Was it a reasonable estimate?
Yes.
What was it for?
It was $670.20.
How much did you pay for the car?
I paid $2,000 for the car.
What year, make, and model car is it?
It's a 1990 Honda Civic.
Did you buy it in primer coat?
Yes, I did.
And you paid $2,000 for it?
That is correct.
Somebody saw you coming. So you gave her this estimate. Go ahead. What happened next?
And I had waited. She had said she was waiting on a check, and I had said, okay. And I had came back to her, and she had said, I don't have the money. I just started a new job. And I had waited another week or so, and I had came back, and I followed up each week about the money, and every time it was a different story.
Why don't you tell Officer Bird here what you did, sir?
I had asked her about the money, and she said, well, I'm moving, and I don't have the money. And so, out of anger, I got mad, and I went and I took a baseball bat to the back window.
Of what?
Of her vehicle.
Of her car?
That's correct.
Who was in the car at the time?
Her daughter was in the car.
Her baby was in the car?
And I did not know that at the time.
No, I told them.
Shh, 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 shh. Sorry. Got it?
Oh, yeah.
You got your anger out. And you were arrested.
That's correct.
And you pled guilty to vandalism.
It was criminal mischief.
And you were forced to pay restitution.
That is correct.
What do we think, Petrie Hawkins Bird? Evidently, Mr. Finnegan understands how to go to small claims court and file papers.
Apparently.
He even knows how to oversee drawing diagrams.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Finnegan, you think I'm sympathetic to you, sir?
No, ma'am.
You're right. That you're right about. And why do you think I'm not sympathetic to you, Mr. Finnegan?
Because of what I did was not right.
Correct.
In any way,
One thing was an accident, at least partially caused by your own negligence for leaving your car running in a parking lot where there are children around. Child could have run into the car, driven, hurt themselves, hurt a lot of other people because you couldn't take the time. You must have been off to a very, very important corporate meeting so that you couldn't pull this car back into the parking space, turn off the ignition, and take the key when you went inside to get your wallet. So at least you were partially responsible for what happened to your own piece of junk.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And instead of acting like a grown-up and saying, well, she's not paying me, that's not the right thing to do, maybe it'll cost me $50 to have my car fixed. Instead, you take a baseball bat to her car with her baby in the car sitting in the back seat and smash the window.
Yes, ma'am.
You think that a court is going to be sympathetic to you?
No, ma'am.
You're right. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You step out.
They have fight clubs, bunch of teenagers beating each other up all over the place, bleeding all over the parking lot.
And, you know, we're teenagers. We have lots of friends, you know.
I know that there's drug activity going on around there.
We meet up there, and then, you know, we all leave together.
We said, my daughter's in the car, Justin, because I saw him come around with a baseball bat, and I knew he meant business then.
I never wanted to be mean or, you know, have problems with her. I just wanted, you know, what was mine.
I was just really scared, just shaky and scared, hoping that the cops would get there fast.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rue versus Ginsburg. Step forward, please.
Daycare worker Angela Rue is suing limo company owner Paul Ginsburg for a refund of his fee. Angela claims the limo he provided for her twin son's prom was filthy.
Mr. Ginsburg, how many limousines do you have in your fleet?
9.
Mrs. Rue, you reserved a limousine for your boy's prom, is that right?
Yes.
From Mr. Ginsburg's company. How did you find his company?
Off the internet.
These are you two boys?
Yes, ma'am.
When did they graduate? This past June?
Yes.
And when was their prom?
May the 22nd.
And what did you reserve?
A 6-passenger limo, a new model Lincoln limo for my kids.
Did he tell you how much it would be?
$428 for a party package limo.
Is that what a party package is, sir? $428?
We don't have party packages as per se. A party package is how they dress up a limousine. But it's by the hour, times however many hours, plus tax and tip.
What did he tell you that they would have in the limo to dress it up?
It would be like a party scene, balloons, confetti and everything like that. Little soft drinks in there.
And what time is it supposed to arrive?
7 o'clock.
What time did it arrive?
7:15.
So what's the problem?
The problem is when the limo got there, I'm expecting a new limousine light. It had a broken tail light. The car was dirty. The tinted windows had bubbles all up in it. Inside of the limo, it had a cut, which it had a chocolate bar inside. I didn't know that until later after my son got to the prom and he sit on it and got out and had a big old chocolate stain on his tux.
Did you take photographs of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see them, please?
This is all this inside.
Miss Rue, did you prepay this limousine, the $428?
I paid it as it arrived there. I paid it.
The inside doesn't look so bad to me.
But inside...
What do you think?
Hard to tell from here, to be honest with you.
Sure is. Son looks pretty good in the tux. Pretty girl. Whose date was that? Yours?
Yes.
Still with her?
Huh?
Sort of. The outside has these little bubbles in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Funky. Yes, and I also have a videotape of
Okay,
it,
so
too.
now I'll take a look at the videotape, because so far I see a broken taillight, but nothing that strikes me as being disastrous, quite frankly.
And they said, see this rip. That was rip. We might agree with that, but for $400, you need to get the discount or something. See here, look. Look, ain't this trash up in this here corner? See this tail light? It's flashing and it's white, okay? I just want to put this on the camera. Tail light's broken. Left hand side blinking is blinking white, not red. I should have been a lawyer. Running me some cases.
Did you have a good time at your prom?
Yes.
Did you have a good time at your
Yes.
prom? Sure you did. Did you rent your tuxedo?
Mm-hmm.
You brought it back with the chocolate stain?
No, we went in the bathroom and cleaned up.
You paid $428 for 6 hours. Now you're suing Mr. Ginsburg for $5,000. You want to explain that to me, Mrs. Rue?
For hardship.
What kind of hardship?
Because this only happened once in a lifetime for my kids, a prom. This is a remember moment.
The boys had a good time at their prom.
After they cleaned up the chocolate off his pants and was disappointed because of the limo.
Ms. Rue, I don't know if you've ever seen me do cases involving limousine companies around prom time. I am very, very hard on a limousine company that overbooks, that disappoints kids, that doesn't get there in time, that sends the wrong kind of car, that doesn't send a car that's large enough to accommodate. I'm really tough on them because I think that that's, you know, without a conscience if you do that to kids and you disappoint them and don't provide a service. But quite frankly, life isn't perfect. And while this limousine probably could have been spruced up a little bit more, and while clearly I saw a tiny cut in the seat, you say there was some chocolate something in there that got on your son's pants. He said he went into the bathroom, cleaned it up, and then you went and you had a great time at your prom. Fair statement? Yes. The only one that didn't have a good time was you. And you have to teach your children the following. You have to teach your children that there are things that you get excited about in this life and that aggravate you in this life, and there are things that you just pass over. And you say, listen, things could have been better. You had a great time. Glad you had a great time. Next time we won't use Mr. Ginsburg's company.
Exactly.
That's all. But you're not entitled to $4,500 for your aggravation.
I understand that.
Right. And when you went and followed him and he had a broken tail light, there was a white light instead of a red light, I guarantee you your children didn't know that. The only ones that knew that were the people that were following him, videotaping for sort of sport this event. So, Mr. Ginsburg, let me explain to you, got off lucky, sir. Because while things could have been neater in your limousine, you probably have to spruce up your fleet a little bit. You're entitled to your $428. You provided a service for the 6 hours. The boys had a good time. And their mother has to get over it. That's all. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He advertised a new brand new limo, and what we get, a lemon.
If you go buy a car, and you look at the car and you don't like it, don't buy it. A limo shows up, and it's not the limo you want, call and get another limousine or don't accept it.
He said take it or leave it. So I didn't have no choice. I didn't want to disappoint my kids, so I had to take it.
It's the same when you have a restaurant and somebody finishes the last spoonful of soup and pulls up the fly and says, you know, here we go.
26-year-old account specialist Beatrice Turrieta is suing her mother, tanning salon owner Beatrice Coleman, for having her falsely arrested and for the return of her belongings.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 470 on the calendar, the matter of Turrieta versus Coleman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Turrieta, this is your mom.
Yes.
And you're suing her for a couple of things. First, you were living with her and her boyfriend. I assume this is the boyfriend?
Yes, it is.
For a while. You and your husband?
Yes.
And children?
My baby.
Your
My
baby?
6-month-old son.
Child. And there was some sort of a disagreement, a dispute. You left the house and you claim that your mother still has some of your property.
Yes.
That's one. Number two, you claim that your mother falsely reported to the police that you had stolen a credit card from her.
Correct.
And you were arrested.
Yes.
Your mom says that she has none of your property, and I don't understand her defense with regard to the credit card. Is what you're saying, Ms. Coleman, that you didn't call the police, but your boyfriend called the police?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, when did you and your husband and baby move in with your mother?
April 2004.
Why?
My mom didn't raise me. My father raised me from when I was 3 and my brother was 1 in New York. And I talked to my mom maybe 3 or 4 times a year for my whole life. She asked us to come there and come visit her, so I brought my son and we came to visit. I visited for about a month, and she said, why don't you come here with...
Well, what was your husband doing when you were visiting for
He
a
was
month?
still at work in North Carolina, where I'm from.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we were there for about a month, and John had come to visit 2 weekends, and she said, you should come here, save up all of your money, live with us, and you can save up enough money and get a house and come live here. So we did.
Where is here?
To Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
And things were pretty normal and good for a little while.
Did your husband find a job?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And I got a job at the end of August. After that, I think things went downhill from there. She was watching my son while I was going to work, and he had diaper rash almost every week to the point where his butt was bleeding, and I had to fix it every weekend.
Can you tell me on what day you moved out?
October 16th.
Had there been an argument?
Yes.
About what?
They came home, they had been drinking. My brother was back from Iraq with his wife, and they came into the house and they were stomping and slamming doors and screaming. And I asked my brother, I was like, can you be quiet? My son is sleeping. And he stood up and he was like, I don't have to be quiet, I don't have to do anything. And then Ron came up behind him and he was like, this is my house and this is my rules, and if you don't like it, you can get out. And he was screaming and acting like a psycho, so I went and got my husband,
and he got in my husband's face and tried to start a fight with him and said, "Come on, big boy, come on, big boy. You want to do something?"
I got it. So things were, so you left that night?
Yes. And she came into my bedroom and she brought her purse with her. She took out her wallet and she opened it up and she went to looking through her credit cards and she went to give me the black one that I use sometimes, and then she goes, "Oh, you have my GM card. Why don't you just use that one? Get a week at the hotel and I'll get you somewhere to live. At the end of the week, I'll get you somewhere to live."
Well, why would she get you somewhere to live if you were working and your husband was working?
Because she felt bad because we had moved there.
You had the credit card?
Correct.
Ms. Coleman, how did she get the credit card?
She had it. She was going to obtain some Barbie dolls for me at her job.
She gave it to me.
Just a second. When did you give her your credit card?
Probably 2 weeks prior to her leaving the house.
Does that sound familiar to you?
She gave me the card almost every day, all the time, for gas, cigarettes, everything.
How many times did she use the credit card? If I were to look at the slips from the credit card company, how many times before October had she used the credit card?
Probably about 6.
And would you give it to her each time, or was it in her possession?
Usually.
Not usually. Was it in her possession?
She kept it. She kept it. She kept it.
She kept it?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I'm going to get to the truth.
Yes,
you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I would like to see the police report that was filled out with regard to the credit card. Well, first of all, Mrs. Coleman, you filled out this police report. This is in your handwriting.
Yes, they made me.
No, nobody makes you do anything. And you say here that she used it without my knowledge or permission.
Right.
Who made you? Your boyfriend?
No. When the sheriff came to the house.
Why did the sheriff come to the house?
Because he had checked our account online. And she had used
Who
it.
had?
My husband.
Yeah.
And she had used it at the motel room, charging $309. She went 3 different times in a matter of hours to the Meijer at the bottom of the hill and went on a shopping spree. Okay.
And so charged what?
Energy drinks, men's boxer shorts, women's bras, conditioner, shampoos, all the stuff that she brought the policeman to the house to get that night.
Ms. Coleman, I don't understand something, madam. I mean, I hear you talking about all the things that she charged on this. You're not talking about a lot of money. They all look like emergency things that one would use if they were staying temporarily someplace that they needed interimly, especially when you have a baby.
Right.
And you knew she had the card, and she had the card before.
Right.
Don't you think the smarter idea, rather than involving the police in this, was after you went online and saw that she had charged the hotel room and charged the other thing, to call the credit card company and say, "Listen, my daughter has the card. She's not authorized to use it anymore. I want to stop the use of the card. Do not let it be used again."
Prior to this, she had went to my salon and was mad at her husband, charged $680 worth of tanning products. My husband and her had gotten to a confrontation over it, and he told her, "You are not allowed to use this credit card unless your mother gives you permission." He said, "Because if you use this without my knowledge," he said, "I will file a complaint on you."
Don't you think that it would have been smarter, more maternal, if you say to whatever his first name is, Joe, "She's my daughter. She left the house. She's got my grandson with her. We don't want her to use the card anymore. Just call the company and tell them, shut off the card. I don't want to involve the police. I don't want her to be arrested." Did you say that to him?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
Well, he said that he had already told her that she was not allowed to use it. And before she brought it back, minutes before she came to my house with the policeman standing there, she stopped and got a pack of cigarettes at the corner store.
You think he did the right thing?
No, ma'am.
You think you did the right thing?
Yes.
You did the wrong thing.
We attempted to take it back.
No. Your girlfriend says that you told her you can hold on to it, but if you use it again without your mother's permission or my permission, I'm going to call the police. And I'm saying, is she lying to me?
No.
Well, and I'm saying to you, if you didn't want the temptation there, you should have taken the credit card back. But you don't put her in a situation where she's got a baby and the police come to the motel and take her away and arrest her. That can start a process going from which it's very hard to extricate yourself. Very stupid. But they were entitled to do it. And I somehow think that your mother is sorry that it happened. She's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I know.
You got it?
I know.
Okay. What does your mother have in the house that belongs to you?
I have pictures of some of the stuff, and then I wrote a list of all the things
Let
that
me
she
see it.
has. And I called her and asked for his high chair, and she said, when I was in the hotel, because I said he was eating on the bed, and she said, well, he needs his high chair. And I said, I want my caricature and the calendar of him that I've been making of him since I was born. And she said, you know, I don't think I have those things. All I want is some respect. And she said, Ron's going to take care of it from here, and threw the phone down.
Okay. You have these things?
I see she showed you a little picture of a toy box that Nicholas is in. That's mine. I bought everything that she's talking about, and I have receipts. I have $10,000 worth of receipts. Mr. Turietti was asked if he had got everything out. He said, yes, he did. He looked at me and said, all's in there is garbage. I can go down to my job, get a truck, come up and throw all that garbage away if you want me to. I said, don't worry about it, John. I'll clean it up.
Did you go to the house?
Yes, Your Honor. I went on...
With or
Monday
without the police?
With the police.
Fine.
And before we walked in, they wouldn't let us in the house until they had the credit card and the key to the tanning salon. She had to come up from the hotel. We gave them back the credit card, but we are not allowed to go anywhere in the house except the bedroom. Our stuff was in the basement, in another closet.
There's a lot of junk here.
Yes, Your Honor.
All of this doesn't add up to the motel room, right?
Right.
So what are you doing here?
I want the calendar that I've been making of my son since he was born. There's no, you cannot put a price on that. I put pictures of
Okay,
him.
do you have the calendar?
No, ma'am. And if it wasn't all that garbage, and what I had done was bought cases
Do you have
of
the
Pampers.
calendar? The
No,
answer is
ma'am.
no. She doesn't have the calendar.
That's just to hurt me. That's just to keep things from me that are
She
of
doesn't
my
have it.
son's.
Listen, you used a credit card, and I think that you probably knew that you weren't supposed to use the credit card at the time when you used it, whether you did or whether you didn't. What he had to pay for as a result of your using the credit card is more than this.
They didn't pay for anything. That's why my case was dismissed on January 21st, because they could not provide the receipts because they didn't pay the bill.
Oh, really?
Really.
Is that right?
You would have to ask Ron about that. We did pay. The reason it was dropped is I'm going through some cancer treatments. I didn't feel like going to, I couldn't. I was throwing
All
up.
I want to know is, did you pay for the motel?
We've reported it to the credit card company
They did not.
as a misuse of the credit card.
So the answer is you didn't.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Beatrice Turrieta says her mother, Beatrice Coleman, had her falsely arrested for credit card theft. Beatrice says her mother gave her that card.
You bought certain things for your grandson. Toy box?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. High chair?
No, ma'am. I don't have the toy, but I didn't. Oh, that's a walker, yes. But I don't have that. They have that.
Yeah.
But this you have?
Yes, ma'am.
You want this?
I don't have that other thing.
Just listen to me. Do you want this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have any problem with them having that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If you want to go over there in the company of a peace officer within 5 days, you can get those things. Understood?
Understood.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was born to that, who I haven't seen since I was 3, and I will never see again.
I would have still given her the $3,000 if that's what she wanted.
She's not a mother. She doesn't know how to be a mother. She never will be a mother.
When she came to my house, she asked my husband where his connection was for cocaine. So I'm sure that's probably what she needed it for. Either that or a gallon of Captain Morgan every week.
I do like Captain Morgan, but I'm a little fat to be on the coke. You think?
She's been in prison before for
Sponsor,
welfare
actually.
fraud.
I was in jail. I was, and I've made mistakes in my life.
My dad told me I was selling my soul to the devil when I came to her house, and he was right.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morathi versus McCarty, step forward, please.
Child care provider Gina Morathi is suing her ex-husband, mental health associate Franklin McCarty, for stealing her income tax return. Franklin says he supported Gina and her 3 children for 7 years.
Miss Morathi, who is this gentleman?
This is my husband, John.
Okay, and this is your former husband?
Correct.
How long were you married?
We were married for 6 years.
You have children together?
We have 1 child.
How old?
He's 6.
And you have children from a previous marriage?
Correct. And that
How many?
I have 3.
According to your complaint, an income tax return that was due you was deposited in a joint bank account.
Correct.
That it had not been switched over after or during your separation and during the divorce. And Mr. McCarthy used that money.
Correct.
And he doesn't deny that. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was the income tax refund that you got?
I was supposed to receive $3,012.
Your defense is that you supported her and her 3 children for years,
Yes, ma'am.
and the money is yours.
Yes, ma'am.
That's no defense. You have no defense if you spent her money. Yes, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. For me, supporting her kids, it wasn't my obligation to do it. It was her previous husband.
You're absolutely right. You don't have to do it.
So through discussions that we had while we were together, she was going to take him back to court for back child support, and also for medical expenses. And I was going to let her keep that. I wasn't going to argue because that is actually more than what the case is all about. Because through all this, her mother and I put my insurance and money into the oldest daughter having dental. The oldest daughter...
Mr. McCarthy, listen to me very carefully, sir. I know that when you got this money, when you realized that it was her income tax refund, you were lying in bed with your eyes open and conjuring up all the reasons to support your argument that that money should morally... I'm speaking. You made me bite my lip. She went to interrupt me. That money should legitimately be yours because you took on the responsibility of her 3 children and she was supposed to get that money from her husband. If she got the money from her ex-husband, you would have let her keep that money, but she never got the money from her ex-husband, so you couldn't let her keep it, but now she's got some money from an income tax refund from her job, so that should be yours. That's what you're telling me.
No, ma'am, that's not correct. We didn't know until June of this year that her income tax came in, because of the IRS told her that they were going to take her income tax because of her bankruptcy. So when the money came in and I opened my new account, I had direct deposit from previous jobs, my state income tax, my regular income tax, and a paycheck still going to that account before everything would be switched over. So when I went in there, I said, I need to take this much out, because I asked for my balance. I said, okay, I need to leave $1,650 in there and open a new account.
Just a second. Why were you leaving First of all, you want me to believe that for 6 months you didn't look at this account and you just had your checks go in? Are you independently wealthy? You live on a trust fund?
No, ma'am, I don't.
All right. Most people who have a job and they're waiting for their income tax returns, especially when they're getting $4,000 back, they know when it goes in there. Or she'd make a gift to you of $870.
Well, we have a son together.
So what? Especially when you find that you have money in the bank. Then you say, listen, I don't want you to give me this $870 because if I really needed money, now that we know that there was $3,000 in there that belonged to me, just give me the difference. Now, if you got this $2,142 back, it's my understanding from your papers that you went through a personal bankruptcy. Is that right? Who gets this $2,142?
United States Bankruptcy Court.
So you are really here on behalf of the United States Bankruptcy Court. Is that what you're saying?
I was ordered to turn it over.
You had how much in debt when you filed bankruptcy?
Approximately $20,000.
And to whom?
A lot of medical bills, basically.
What were the medical bills for?
Psychiatric.
Whose?
Mine.
So if I were to award this money, the check would be made out to the United States Bankruptcy Court. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's what you want?
Yes.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,142. The check is to be made out. Make sure that my clerk has the bankruptcy court number. Okay. Thank you very much. That's all.
I do know I took out money, some more money, but I also put some more money in there.
If he had any complaints about anything, he could have brought it up in our divorce hearing.
It could be possibly a free ride. I just don't know.
I just need to pay the bankruptcy court, that's all.
It's done and over. We have to get along because we have a son together, and hopefully we can put this behind us and both of us take care of our son.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Perry versus Bartle. Step forward.
Homemaker Lynn Perry is suing Travis and Michelle Bartle for the cost of vet bills.
Lynn says Michelle's 12-year-old son, Matthew Fry, beat on her cat with a stick.
Miss Perry, Mr. and Mrs. Bartle's son injured your cat with a stick, and you want them to pay the vet bills. And Mr. and Mrs. Bartle seem to say it was the cat's fault because the cat was out running loose, and the cat should not have been running loose. That's your defense, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You, over here.
Have a seat up here, okay?
So, you watch me. Don't take your eyes off me for a second. Your son told you the following story, which I gather from your answer, that he was riding down the street at his grandmother's house, and a dog was chasing him in the middle of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And he had a stick, and he accidentally hit the cat.
That's what he told me.
And that's what you believe.
He told me that the bike hit the cat, and then the stick hit the cat too, yeah.
Oh. Now, your cat was seriously injured.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of a cat is it?
She's actually a mutt. She's pure white, one blue eye, one green eye, 16 years old.
Managed to get through 16 years before she met this young man.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of injuries did she have?
She's lost some sight in her left eye, and she was bleeding from her nose and her mouth when the incident happened.
You're 12 years old?
Yes.
You do okay in school?
Yeah.
When did you go to your grandmother's house that day, Matthew?
We went over there that morning.
Who went over there?
Me and my two sisters.
Now, there came a point at some time that you were outside on your bike.
Yeah.
Who were you riding with, yourself or with your sisters?
I was by myself. It was after I took my sisters to their friend.
And about how far was that? A block, 2 blocks?
About a block.
Did you have any trouble taking your sisters over to their friend's house?
No.
Did you have any trouble coming back?
Look
at me.
The dog.
Look at me.
I was getting chased by the dog.
Oh,
on
that's
the
what
way
you...
to my
Just a dog. Was it a big dog?
It was a bulldog. It was about up to my knees.
And where did that big bulldog start to chase you, Matthew?
Right as a stop sign after I was coming down the hill. I was going to turn down and go down the hill, and it started chasing me.
And you didn't get off your bike from the time the bulldog started to chase you until the time you hit the cat. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you tell me when you got this stick. Is not an answer. Look right here.
I left with the stick from my grandma's.
You did?
Yes.
Why would you leave carrying a stick?
The dog was chasing me.
No. The dog didn't start chasing you until you got to a stop sign, Matthew.
Yeah, from my sister's friend's house.
That's not what you told me. You told me that the dog started to chase you when you were making a turn at a stop sign.
Yes, ma'am. Or right as I take the right turn, he started chasing me.
Right, and you didn't get off the bike. So if the dog was chasing you, and I asked you, when did you get this big stick?
Before I left the house.
Why would you start carrying a stick on your bicycle?
Because he's bit me before, and I didn't want to get bit again. And
Matthew, I don't believe you.
My mom was...
Matthew, I don't believe you. You may have told that story to your mother and father about the big dog chasing you and the stick, but I don't believe it. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you want to tell me how you hit this cat with the stick?
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to hear the truth from you.
Yes, ma'am.
You say yes, ma'am. You make sure you believe yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I was riding down the hill with the stick in my hand because that's when the dog was chasing me.
Yeah, how big a stick was it?
It was a broomstick.
A broomstick?
Broke in half.
Go ahead.
I was riding down through there, and I was looking back. That's the time that the dog was chasing me. And I kept on looking back, and he wasn't there. And I turned around. I didn't know what it was until I hit it, and I saw that it was a cat. I really didn't mean to, but... So.
I still don't know how it got hit in the face with the stick.
I was riding down through there, and it was in the middle of the road, and I looked back, and I looked forward, and I hit it.
With the stick?
Yes, ma'am.
Baloney. Go sit down. It's not true. It's not the way it happened.
Well, he told me that he hit the cat with the bike and then the stick, and the bike has freestyle pegs on the front.
He was lying to you. I raised 5 children. None of them ride their bicycle that they're supposed to hold on to with 2 hands, carrying a broomstick in one hand, unless they're looking for trouble. You got me?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand? You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
They may have believed you momentarily. Maybe they still do. I don't believe you, Matthew. You're not supposed to hurt a living thing. Ever. And if a dog was chasing you, you don't take your bike out. You stay at your grandmother's house. And if it was chasing you when you took your sister to their friend's house, stay at the friend's house and call your grandmother. And call your mother and say, I'm afraid to go home because this big bulldog is chasing me. You understand?
Yes,
That's why I don't believe you. All they're asking for is their vet bills. You're lucky. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $605.01. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have a 3-year-old son that was out playing at the same time the incident happened, and he came running in the house telling me that Kitty had blood.
The police came and we talked to them.
We ran outside. Of course, Cat immediately went to the emergency room.
He was crying. He was upset.
Our cat was on the side of the road sitting doing nothing, and you'd have to be pretty close to it to hit it.
It was an accident.
If they can just know what's right from wrong and help him learn a lesson, then I'm pretty much satisfied.
25-year-old home appraiser Amanda Knockhart is suing her ex-boyfriend, 27-year-old basketball coach Ethan Jordan, for a loan, a trip to Las Vegas, and for kicking her in the ribs.
Yeah, this is case number 243 on the calendar in the matter of Knockhart versus Jordan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Knockhart, Mr. Jordan is your former roommate, and it is your claim in this lawsuit that he owes you for a whole bunch of stuff.
Correct.
Mr. Jordan says he owes you for absolutely nothing, and you got to get on with your life. Get over it and get on with your life. When was he your roommate?
He moved in August of 2003 through June of 2004.
And how long had you known him before he became your roommate?
Probably about a month.
Was your relationship with him solely that of landlord and tenant?
No.
So you had a social relationship with him as well?
No.
What?
A love relationship?
I said social.
Social?
Yes.
Sure.
Well, is that a question?
No.
That's a statement. So you had a social relationship with him as well. Is that right, Mr. Jordan?
Not entirely, Your Honor. I sometimes slept on the couch, but for the most part, we did share a bedroom.
Okay, so you had a social relationship, but you paid rent?
No, ma'am.
You did not pay rent?
I moved in with the understanding that I would not pay rent or find any costs in her bills.
Oh, that's interesting. So you weren't a tenant because the word tenant implies that you pay rent?
Yes, ma'am.
So you just lived together? I mean, I was confused about the statements. You'd lived together, and he did not pay rent?
He did not pay rent, but the agreement was that he was supposed to maintain the automobile and the maintenance of that. And
whose automobile?
Mine.
Supposed to maintain a car?
Right.
Is that your agreement?
That agreement wasn't up until, let's say, January.
So from August of 2003 until January of 2004, Mr. Jordan, what you're telling me is you were just sponging.
No, Your Honor. It was all her idea.
Oh, no, I didn't know her idea. I didn't ask whose idea it was. I said, just listen to my question, Mr. Jordan. According to you, from August 2003 till January 2004, you paid no rent, you paid no bills, you paid no car insurance, you didn't have any responsibility with regard to the car. So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That makes you a sponge.
Okay.
Right?
I would
that means
disagree.
that as far as I'm concerned, there must be something really hidden about you that I don't see. What? Whatever. Okay. Now, he's a sponge.
Yes.
That makes you pretty dumb. Right?
No.
Sure it does. You know somebody a month, you invite them to come into your home, they pay you nothing. Must do something. Do you have a big home?
No, he was supposed to get a check that was mailed to his ex-girlfriend's house. That's why I never saw the money.
Look, you say, I met him, he moved in.
Correct.
And you agreed that he could use my car to get to and from work if he paid the insurance and the maintenance. That's what you said.
That's right.
So evidently he worked, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Usually when you have a job, you make what?
Yeah, but he got fired.
Money. And when you have a job and you make money, you take care of your expenses, like rent and food and electric and gas, unless, you know, you're a sponge. So according to you, he did not pay for the insurance on the car?
No.
So why don't you throw him out?
Well, he was supposed to be getting a big check, like I said, for $2,000, and the check was mailed somewhere else instead of our residence, and he apparently spent the money.
And when did he get the check?
February.
Well, what happened in February when you knew he got the check and he spent the money on something else? Did you throw him out?
No, he had another job at that time finally and was supposed to get the paychecks. Then he got arrested and his lawyer that he owed money to was suing him. I couldn't get any of it at that point.
At that point, what you're supposed to say is, I am a reasonably intelligent person.
Right.
I'm living with somebody that's taking advantage of me. Get out.
Right.
Unless you're in love and everything is going to work out okay and you're really not interested in the money, you're really interested in the relationship, and the only reason you come to a point where you're interested in the money is because you're not together anymore.
No, he did start staying at a friend of his house more often.
When?
That was in May, because...
I'm talking about February, March, April.
Okay.
Nothing. Goodbye. All right. What's next? What else does he owe you money for?
A vacation that we took together and for medical bills.
All right. So let's go to the vacation. When was the vacation?
February.
Where did you go?
Las Vegas.
For how long?
February 22nd to the 29th.
You wait to drink later. And was he working at the time?
He was going to Las Vegas to work.
Was he working at the time?
Nowhere else, no.
And what was your arrangement?
He was working the convention there, the magic show, and when he returned...
What do you do for a living?
Your Honor, I have always, since she's known me, maintained an occupation as a basketball coach at the YMCA. I still work there today.
What were you doing in Las Vegas?
Oh, I modeled for a clothing company.
So you were modeling?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get paid?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much did you get paid? Do you remember?
Not entirely, not exactly. I think it was like $1,500, some give or take.
And who paid for all the expenses to Vegas?
To Vegas? She did.
Well, why didn't you compensate her for that?
When I got the news that I was going to Vegas, I had all my... They flew me out. They flew me out. They would room me, pay for airfare. I had a place to go. She decided that she wanted to go to Vegas. We sat down and we planned out the whole trip. Okay, when we got to Vegas, she, you know, her and I would disagree, as usual, and she went one way and I went another. I stayed with a friend. That's it.
How many days were you there?
In the hotel room, I think I stayed one day.
Okay, how many days?
One.
Okay, so you put him out after one day?
No, he only stayed one night away from me. He tried leaving me in the middle of Las Vegas by myself. Yeah. So I tried catching a flight home, which would have costed me a lot more money than...
How did you get to Vegas? Did you fly?
Yeah.
You flew? Well, his ticket was paid for.
No, it wasn't. I have the credit card receipts right here.
Oh, well, she says it wasn't paid for. Did
Your
you
Honor,
were you reimbursed by the company for your airfare there?
Normally they would have, but I opted to go with her since she wanted to go with me.
Yeah, right.
Ooh, he slipped. All right, how much was his plane ticket?
$345 for
his plane ticket. Okay. And how much was the hotel room?
$214.76.
For both of you?
No, I divided all the costs by two.
So it's clear to me that you were compensated, Mr. Jordan, for that. If you weren't, you were paid $1,500, probably plus expenses. You got the check. I assume you got the check to cover your expenses as $559. So far, you're off $559 for this trip to Las Vegas. What else does he owe you for? Don't say anything else. Right. I'm giving you so far every benefit of the doubt, more benefit of the doubt than I usually would give to somebody who acts so dumb. What else does he owe you for?
The rental car.
Listen to me. Leave Las Vegas. Get on to something else.
Doctor bill.
Now, tell me about the doctor bill.
Ethan abused me, and I had to go to the doctor's.
When?
5/8.
Tell me what happened on May 8th.
He kicked me in the ribs, broke two of my toes, threw me...
Tell me about the argument.
I don't know what actually the argument was about.
And how did the verbal argument escalate into a physical argument?
He came dashing from the living room, charging at me.
And?
Threw me against the kitchen cabinets, picked me up, threw me on the floor, spit on my face, and kicked me in the ribs.
Did you call the police?
I called my friend to come get me.
Did you call the police?
Not at that point.
When, after May 8th, did you call the police and report it?
I had a personal protection order put out on him on July 22nd. I didn't call the police on that incident.
Why not?
I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
Mr. Jordan, you want to tell me what happened on May 8th?
Your Honor, I do remember the fight that we got into. I don't remember why I attacked her, but I do know that that was not the only incident that became physical between either one of us.
Did you suffer any injuries on May 8th, Mr. Jordan?
Your Honor, I've got scratches all over me, but I didn't go to report him. I didn't go to the hospital or anything like that.
I see the doctor's report. Did you take her to the hospital, doctor, or whatever?
I don't remember her going to the hospital.
No, I took myself there, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Knockhart, after May 8th, you went back to live with him.
He started staying... No.
Are you telling me that between May 8th and June, which is when you said you separated, because you said you separated in June...
Correct.
You didn't live together at all?
I stayed at my mom's a lot more because...
I'm not asking you a lot more. I'm asking you at all, Miss Knockhart.
Not that day or not the next day.
What about the third day?
Yes.
And when you went back the third day, did you share a room together?
No.
Not ever between May 8th and June when he...
Yes. Once or twice.
Miss Knockhart,
yes.
I have no idea what this bill is for. This says that the closing date of the statement is May 8th. The doctor says that he saw you on April 23rd with regard to an assault. I would have assumed that if somebody broke your toes during the course of an assault, you would remember the month and date that it took place.
Yeah.
Well, I would assume that. Listen, are you her mother?
Yes, I am.
She lives by herself?
Yes.
How old is she?
25.
She's probably not old enough to live by herself.
No, she's more than capable. Her judgment in men aren't that good.
Her judgment isn't that good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Linda Knockhart says her ex-boyfriend Ethan Jordan beat her up and broke her ribs. She's also suing for a loan and a trip to Las Vegas.
Where are you living now, Mr. Jordan?
I live with my brother.
You pay him rent?
No.
Problem is not an answer.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Why not?
Because he's my brother. He helped me out this relationship.
Does your brother work?
He's a doctor.
And you just told me a moment ago that you've been working continuously.
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 jobs myself.
What is it with you that you think that other people are supposed to take care of you?
I don't believe that.
I'm not talking about her. Let's forget her for a second.
Okay.
How old are you?
27.
Grow up. Responsibility. You're supposed to pay your way. You're not supposed to spend all the money that you make on clothes. Sir, do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Listen, your mother says that you have lousy judgment in men. You better start getting better judgment in men. So far, the only thing he owes you is $559 for the trip to Vegas. That's his expenses, because I think he was reimbursed those expenses and you expected them. I can't figure out whether you were assaulted or when you were assaulted or what it was all about, because you brought no proof of that. So, exercise better judgment in the future. That's my decision. Judgment for the plaintiff, $559. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
For her to let me live that long with her, drive her car, you know what I'm saying? She says I beat her up and she didn't make any kind of police report. It speaks for itself.
I think he just used me and he wanted somewhere to stay for free, and now he's found somewhere else to freeload.
The violence, tumultuous relationship. I didn't talk about how fish hook I was beat with, or you know what I'm saying, spoons and whatever that was thrown at me. So I'm just happy this all done over.
Of course he's got to make me look bad, because look at how he appeared in the courtroom. So
I wish her the best. I have no hard feelings for her, man. I hope she gets, you know, whatever's coming to her.
Construction worker Ron King is suing his ex-fiancée, customer service rep Candy Oliveri, for a loan and an engagement ring. Candy is countersuing, claiming Ron has been harassing her.
This is case number 361 on the calendar, the matter of King versus Oliveri. All right, has been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. King, Miss Oliveri was your fiancée. That relationship terminated. You want the ring back, and you also want the loan that you made to her returned. In addition to that, you claim that she has harassed you. You want to be compensated for the harassment, and Ms. Oliveri says that the ring was not an engagement ring, there was never a loan made, and that you, in fact, have been harassing her. She is counterclaiming. How long were you a couple?
About 5, 6 months.
Had you ever been married before?
Yes.
How many times?
Twice.
How old are you?
42.
Who is this?
This is my girlfriend, Shelley.
You just roll right into... Don't let any moss grow, huh? So first, let me hear about the loans, sir. When did you make the loans to her? What were they for?
They were for her kids to get an apartment.
These your children?
Yes, they are.
Why did they have to get an apartment?
Well, I guess he got kicked out of his dad's house, and I guess her and her boyfriend split up, and then she was... Actually, Kenny was living with me for a while, then she brought her daughter in, then her grandson, then her other daughter.
Sounds to me like you got out just in time.
Yes.
So I wouldn't sue her, sir. I would say thank you and thank you, Lord. And be on my way.
Thank you, Lord.
I want you to tell me about the commitment that she made to you with regard to repaying the money.
When I lent her the money in June to get the apartment, it was for her kids. They were staying with me. And every month got longer and longer, and then in June, the guy called and said, yes, the apartment's ready. So on June 28th of '04, I lent her $300.
That's not so, Your Honor. It was not a loan. When I offered to pay it back, he said, no, whatever you need. And it was not for months on end that my oldest daughter and my grandson lived with Ron and I.
When you say you offered to pay it back, that suggests to me that there was an initial agreement to pay him back. So there was a time when he gave you this money that you intended to pay him back. That's what your statement suggests to me.
But we lived together and shared expenses.
You didn't share expenses for taking care of your children. These adult children are not his responsibility.
Right, no.
So you took the $300, and then you tried to give him the $300 back.
I offered.
Well, what do you mean you offered? You must have said to him, can you loan me the $300? And he said yes.
Whatever you need, is what were his words.
Okay. All right, Swifty, $300. Now, let me hear about the ring.
On August 1st, she looked for like 3.5 to 4 hours looking at a ring. Then she finally picked one out, and I proposed to her when we got the ring. And like 3 days later, after she got the ring, she came back from work saying, this ring's a piece of, you know, everyone has one just like it. I hate this ring. And then that day she said, I hate this house. You should have a nice new house, you know, or at least put a new front door on or something. My house in 1940, but it's my house anyways.
What'd the ring look like, Mr. King?
Had 3 stones.
What kind of stones?
Diamonds.
Where's the ring?
On my finger.
Can I see it, please? Sure. What did he say to you when he gave you the ring, Miss Oliveri?
The initial plan was to go and find a ring, to have a ring on my finger before we actually ordered a ring that we were going to have customized at another jeweler. So this was just something for the mere fact that we were going to be married in June of 2005.
Looks like a nice engagement ring to me.
I have the actual drawing of the ring that we both went to look at.
When did you go to look at another ring? After you bought this one or before?
Well before, in May.
And did he ever purchase that ring?
No.
Good, because he purchased this one. Who paid for this?
I am paying for it.
Good, you get it. Give it back to him. Now you got it.
Thank you.
And you have $300.
Thank you.
You want to get to the harassment, sir?
Me? Yes. On September 18th, I went to her house to pick up the ring and the money.
Why did you do that?
She told me to come to her house. If I wanted my stuff, I was supposed to go to her house and pick it up.
What stuff?
I have a little bit of clothes there, like a sweatshirt and stuff like that.
Your Honor, that's not so.
Just a second, I'll get to you in a minute. Go ahead.
So I went there to pick it up. When I got there, they didn't want to answer the door, and I could hear the little baby in there. And then her daughter said, my mom's not here. I called the police or whatever, and I said, okay, you know, I just came to get my stuff that I was told to get. Then I guess she filed a restraining order on me the next day. And on Monday, she called my employer, and here's a letter from my employer that she called my employer harassing me at work, too. And she's the one who did the harassing, not me.
Why did you call his job?
Just to inform Human Resources of the type of person that we were dealing with.
They were dealing with the same person who's been employed by them for 25 years. Mm-hmm. Evidently, they have not had a problem.
Outside of work, he's a totally different person.
That may be, but I don't see any reason for you to call his place of employment, where he's been employed for almost a quarter of a century, unless you're just being spiteful and miserable.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not
being
spiteful, not miserable.
Not at all.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
I also have police logs on the two situations that took place, the 18th and the 19th.
I'll take a look at it.
And I have the actual restraining order if you'd like to take a look at it as well.
Is it a final order?
Yes, it is, for
Can
1
I
year.
see it? Did you have a trial, Mr. King?
Yes.
And after the trial, the judge entered a restraining order telling you to stay away from her house.
Actually, I was like, they had jury duty that day, and there was a big line, so I was late getting into the courtroom.
Yeah.
And so I never heard nothing from the judge. They just gave me that paper.
So you did not have a trial?
No.
So there was a default because you didn't show up?
Yes.
Well,
and on that case,
yeah.
She has a friend who's a judge over there in Rancho Cucamonga. He called my house on the 20th to tell me to appear in court on the 21st.
That was not a judge, Your Honor. He was to be subpoenaed over the telephone.
Are you telling me that someone notified him a day in advance to appear in court?
That was for the initial, not for the actual hearing. That was for from the 18th and
Listen
the 19th.
to me, Mr. King. I'm not sure what kind of a vindictive person she is. So if the reason you didn't appear here was because you got stuck on the line or because you had another valid reason, I would ask that this case be reopened, because if she doesn't have the basis for a restraining order, you don't want a restraining order hanging around for a year. Do you understand? It's totally up to you.
Yes, ma'am.
You got it? Oh. Now you want to tell me about the harassment?
Yes, it was on September 18th.
That he came to your house?
Right. Tried to open up my door. They threw a substance on my car. There was a police report, and it's also on your desk there.
I want to see who saw him throw a substance on your car.
We did not see because my car was parked to the left of my...
I want to know is I want a witness who saw him throw something on your car. And you didn't have anybody?
No.
Oh, good.
The children were a witness of the threat that his girlfriend Shelley shouted out.
That has nothing to do with him.
She was there.
Who
She
cares?
did it as well, and him trying to open up my front door.
I wanted to get his stuff back, Miss Oliveri. Your counterclaim is dismissed on the complaint. Judgment for the plaintiff. He has his property back and also $300. Thank you. That's good.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She told me to come to her house to pick it up. I went there to pick it up, and then she filed a restraining order on me.
It was a shock to me 2 days later when I came home and he wasn't there.
They thought that she was my mom and threatened to kill her and all kinds of stuff.
A bunch of lies, and she was trying to get me for what she could.
Parties in the matter of Feynman versus Hernandez. Step forward.
Aspiring author Annie Feynman is suing her former astrologer, Anita Hernandez, for breach of confidentiality. Annie says Anita used her pen name without permission.
Miss Feynman, your lawsuit alleges that somehow Miss Hernandez published something with your name on it. It wasn't your name, it was a pen name that you used, and that people might recognize the pen name and attribute whatever problem it was to you. So I want you to explain to me and to Bird here, what did she publish, when did she publish it, why it caused embarrassment to you, and why you think that she breached some sort of confidentiality arrangement she had with you. Let's go.
Okay. I've been in a depression for a while, so I decided to consult an astrologer. And I gave her some personal details of what had been happening.
You're an astrologer?
Yes.
How did you find her?
I had been seeing her website for quite a while, and she's very...
On the internet?
Yes. She's a very interesting astrologer, and I thought this would be an interesting way to maybe solve some of the problems I'm having. So the email name I use, the Flame McBain email name...
The what?
Flame McBain, which happens to be the main character of a novel I wrote, which I'm sending out to get published. It isn't published yet. That's why I'm nervous about this information being sent all over the internet, because I'm afraid a scandal might come of it, because the information she put out in a newsletter...
Just a second. You're getting ahead of yourself. Oh. So you wanted her to do what?
I wanted a chart.
You wanted a chart?
Yeah, some astrological calculations as to what was happening. Very personal, embarrassing details.
Miss Feynman, you sent this over the internet?
Yeah.
Go ahead. So, along with personal details that you wouldn't want a stranger to know about.
I thought it was just going to Miss Hernandez. Well, you have a point.
What I want to see now is how you published her problem, because what she's complaining about is that you published her problem and people could identify her.
It's a limerick.
It's a limerick. I remember limericks from high school.
Ogden Nash.
Is this what you're complaining? I want you to take a look at that. Is this what you're complaining about?
Yeah, this is exactly what she had sent out the newsletter. I didn't get it, coincidentally enough, but my friend did. My witness got it. That's how I found out about it.
Okay. Can I see it, please? Suffice it to say, without going into details, which would be even more embarrassing for you, because instead of a few people getting it on the internet, hopefully, since our courtroom is televised, hopefully tens of millions of people will be watching.
And won't know the details.
And won't know the details. So you were asking about a situation that you had that involved something personal.
Right.
And she responded by writing a little poem and identified you by the use of the name that you sent her, which was Flame McBain.
I've used this name for 8 years. People know that it's me. Had she just said my client, it wouldn't have been a problem.
It wouldn't have been a limerick.
Just a second. Just a second. Why did you use that name when you sent her?
I didn't. She used it from my email address.
Right. And she says clearly, no real names used.
Right, but I've used that name for 8 years. People know it's me.
So what? She didn't use any real names, and the only way she could convey to you things were by using your name.
Beyond what's happening now, I'm very nervous that if I do get published, that this would come out to be used against me in the future and cause me public embarrassment. I wanted to, get it over with now.
Her novel is about a hooker.
Listen.
Her novel is about a hooker.
Miss Hernandez, Miss Hernandez, put it away. Put it away. Miss Feynman, listen to me very carefully.
Third generation.
What word of be quiet didn't you understand?
B.
You didn't understand B?
B.
We're going to try it again, because Bill Clinton, you're not. If you're afraid that the name Flame McBain will come back and haunt you if your novel is published, is that what your real concern is? Change the name.
Change what name?
Flame McBain.
It's too late. It's copyrighted, and the book is...
Just a second. Nobody bought it yet. If somebody...
I have sold it unpublished.
Listen to me. If somebody buys it, change the name. Miss Feynman.
I can't do that.
Get it. Why can't you?
That's my character's name.
Change it if you're afraid of being embarrassed. Change the name.
Way too late for that. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Listen, if you don't want something to be out there in the general, wherever they put the
it's
things,
already
listen to me carefully, wherever they go in the internet, wherever things go in the internet, into outer space, don't put it in writing. Nothing is private that's on the internet. And if you didn't learn that before, this is a very good lesson. And if you're not afraid of it being out there, but what your real fear is that it may negatively impact on your book, change the name of your heroine. Goodbye.
All you are excused. You may step out.
Scandal, embarrassment, shame.
She loved the poem, and she said, I love it.
I can't change the name of the character.
Sorry stories like that are what I teach from.
It has put me into a dilemma.
And I needed it, and I used it.
I mean, she's a very good astrologer. I just don't trust her. I'm sorry.
I feel bad that she feels bad.
Hi, xin chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu bức tranh một nhân vật trong phim hoạt hình. Sẽ lấy màu vàng tô vào hình ở trên. Em xin đặt vào đây. Màu vàng vào đây. Màu này vào đây. Màu xanh nhạt vào tay. Vậy là chúng ta đã tô xong bức tranh một nhân vật trong hoạt hình Pokemon. Và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.